Good evening. I'll call this evening's meeting to order of the East Providence City Council, September 3rd. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll of the council?
Councilman Fogarty?
Here.
Councilman Lawson?
Here.
Council Vice President Rigo?
Yeah.
Councilwoman Sousa?
Here.
Council President Rodrick?
Here, the record show all 5 members are present. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. Captain Ferreira, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I don't know.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please start the agenda?
Proclamation for Christine Alves, 2025 Rhode Island Education Support Professional of the Year. Council Vice President Rigo?
So I'd ask Council Vice President Rigo to please make tonight's special presentation. If you follow things East Providence, this person is no stranger to anyone. Council Vice President, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the president just said, this person is no stranger to the city of East Providence. Christine Alves is an administrative assistant at East Providence High School, working primarily within the special education department in room 156. She plays a crucial role in supporting vulnerable students and families, often being the first point of contact during crisis. Christine is known for her friendly, welcome demeanor that puts students at ease while also holding them accountable for their success. She coordinates meetings within the school's special education department, ensuring families are informed, involved, and supported. Christine's collaborative spirit, commitment to excellence, positive impact her colleagues and the overall school environment. Her dedication to students, families, communities, colleagues make her a deserving candidate for the NEA ESP of the Year Award. I'd like to bring Christine up, and I'd like to also welcome her family, Ron, Jalen, Jaron, and Jordan, to come up to the podium.
It's true that Ms. Alves is friendly, but if you're a student in high school and you're late to class, don't get caught.
We also have a presentation from the Rhode Island State Senate from Senator Brito. So here's the presentation from the City of East Providence, the City Council, as well as the State Senate.
Thank you so much.
I would like you to say a couple of words, because I know you're not shy on words.
Oh, wow. Thank you. This definitely is truly an honor. I don't do things for recognition. I do things because it's what I love to do. I love the students. I love forming relationships with the students. I make sure my family does the same thing. As you know, I have a daughter who's been teaching in the district for 5 years. People say we're somewhat alike. Thank you very much. Thank you to Cindy for nominating me. Thank you to the City of East Providence for always, no matter what I do, Socktober, Dress-a-Townie, school supply drives, everybody always, stands behind me. I'm just the vessel. It's really East Providence that really gets me through. I appreciate it. Next step, March 2025, Louisville, Kentucky for the Nationals. Maybe I can bring it home for Rhode Island. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh.
I'd ask that principal of the high school, Mr. Bill Black, if you'd join us for a photo op in the front here, please. Oh, I didn't see the superintendent also. Come on up, Dr. Ferran. And anybody who wants to get in the photo. We have some other presentations, and I would ask the councilwoman from Ward 2, Councilwoman Souza, to make these presentations.
Want to read them off? So the first proclamation is Alzheimer's Awareness Month. Whereas Alzheimer's disease it is an irreversible and progressive brain disease that slowly erodes precious memories, thinking skills, and the ability to perform simple tasks. Whereas Alzheimer's is the seventh leading cause of death in the United States, with nearly 4 million people diagnosed worldwide annually. The City of East Providence City Council encourages everyone to get involved in the fight against this disease and express support for those who have suffered and their loved ones who need a support system. So we declare the 3rd of September 2024 Alzheimer's Awareness Month. And we know that if we don't have someone personally in our family, we have someone that we know, work with, care for, that is affected by this disease. So it not only affects the person who suffers from the unfortunate disease, but it does also affect the loved ones and those in the communities who try to support them.
And also to add a couple of comments to the councilwoman's presentation, Chief of Staff Patricia Resendes, you'd like to do it later on? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, continue.
Next, we have Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. As we know, this is an epidemic that is really serious. Every suicide situation affects 4 additional people with that. So that's friends, family, coworkers, and those in the community. So whereas the month of September is designated as Suicide Prevention Month, at a time to raise awareness about the critical issues of suicide, to remember those who have lost their lives, and to support individuals who struggle with mental health challenges. Whereas suicide is a serious public health concern that affects individuals, families, and the community, it is crucial to promote and understand the compassion and effect prevention strategies to address these issues. Whereas mental health plays a significant role in the overall well-being and is imperative to reduce the stigma, encourage the open conversations, and provide resources to those who need help. Whereas East Providence is committed to fostering the community where every person feels valued, heard, supported, and where individuals have the access to the resources and services to improve their mental health. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the City Council of East Providence hereby declares the month of September as Suicide Prevention Month in our city. We encourage all residents to participate in educational activities, supportive mental health groups and incentives, and to reach out to those who need. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 1-800-273-TALK. So that's 1-800-273-8255, and the local Rhode Island Crisis Assistant Program, Rhode Island CAP, is 401-272-4044, and they offer confidential support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is something that really does affect everybody personally. So we have all either known somebody that we love, either a family member, a friend, a colleague, a neighbor. It is something that if you hear somebody talking about it, even jokingly, it is never really a joke, right? Somebody is always reaching out and crying well before they decide to commit the act of taking their own life, which is something that is tremendously difficult to have to do, but it speaks volumes to the state of mind that the person is in to have to go that far to take their own lives. So I would encourage, again, to be kind to people, to help support people and guide them into resources that they can then get the support and help that they need to improve whatever the situation is that they're facing.
Thank you. Continue.
And then last, we have recognition of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. So whereas September is designated as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, a time of recognition and support of the courageous children and families affected by cancer and to promote awareness of the critical need for continuing research and improvement in treatments. Whereas childhood cancer is the leading cause of death among children, and it is essential to raise this awareness about the impact of disease, to honor those who have battled it, and to support the families who continue to face it. Whereas the community of East Providence is committed to supporting all the incentives that provide the quality of life for children battling cancer, as well as their families, and raising awareness about the importance of research, funding, and childhood treatments. Whereas local organizations, healthcare professionals, and volunteers tirelessly try to provide support, advocacy, funding for pediatric cancer research, making a significant difference in the lives of children and their families. Whereas by working together, we can enhance public understanding, support those affected, and advocate for the progress in research and treatment. Now, hereby, let it be resolved that the City Council of the City of East Providence do hereby proclaim the month of September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. We encourage all residents to participate in the awareness activities, support all local incentives, and join us in our commitment to provide to improving the lives of children with cancer and to support their families. Again, another disease that we all have been touched, have experienced, know, and love someone. Our city is amazing in that we all come together in a time of need and support local families in our community. Our administration, our police, our fire have provided countless pleasurable moments to those who have been affected. We work very closely with the Hasbro Children's Hospital and do our lights for the children. So I know we come together and help each other, and it's just another time to be acknowledging that the importance of continuing to do so. Thank you, council members.
Thank you. And council appreciates the dedication of Councilwoman Souza and the medical health and related fields and keeping us abreast of issues and concerns. Madam Clerk, do you continue?
Under the consent calendar, we have the regular meeting minutes of July 9th. Under letters, there's notice of new property at 1 Pier Road, 02914, 777 Waterfront Drive, 02914, 600 Waterfront Drive, 02914, 700 Waterfront Drive, 02914, 93 Main Street, 02915, 32 Adams Avenue, 02915, and a letter from William C. Maya and Associates regarding comp plan amendment and zone change, 0 Wampanoag Trail request to move from table to untabled, and tax abatements for 2024 totaling the amount of $12,398.80.
So I would ask for a motion on all of those items except for number 7 under letter B, and we'll just, it's a little different topic. We'll just take that separately. So the motion would be to approve the consent calendar, letters A, letters B, 1 through 6, and the tax abatements as read. Is there a motion?
Why wouldn't we accept 7?
Well, it's different than the numbers. We can just accept them all, but
There's no action on that.
there's no action, right? Where number 7 is the request to move that item from tabled to untabled. If that's okay, we just leave it at that. Solicitor, is there a,
Well, the issue is, if you're going to do that, this is just a request, not actually voting on it. But we need to know if you are going to untable it, because it'll be on the next council agenda to physically untable it. And then that date, we will set up, if you do move to untable it, we'll set a hearing date to comply with notice requirements of state law, which is 3 weeks. So I think we're just looking for a sense of whether or not you're.
So by virtue of us approving it all as read, it would do that.
No, it wouldn't. That's what I'm saying. It needs to be put back on. So by untabling it, it'll be on
You
the
wanna
next
untable
agenda.
it.
Right. But you're not, it's just a request.
Tonight, because it's not on the agenda.
Correct.
Right.
But I need. but I
Just
need
gonna
to know-
untable
I
it.
kind of need to know if you're willing to do that so we can put it on the agenda.
I've been clear if there's a specific plan, but I'm one of five. I want to know exactly what they're looking to do for a zone change.
You're saying if there's nothing new, then things the way it is.
So that's what they would come back.
And that's why you'll have that discussion.
You'll have that discussion.
Next council meeting.
Has something been presented to the planning department we're not aware of?
I'm not aware of. But I necessarily would not be aware of it. This is just correspondence.
By doing number 7 separately, we're just asking if we are going to untable this and table it, the next meeting discussion.
So if it's approved as part of the consent agenda, I will ask the clerk to put it on the agenda for an official untabling at the next meeting. If you vote to untable it, then at that time, I'll ask you to set a date for which to advertise any changes.
So we can untable it tonight, or we can untable it the next meeting.
Yeah.
We'd have to untable it then, so.
If that's what they want, I'm fine with that, but my stance hasn't changed. I'm not
Right.
going to vote for it.
Yeah, no, the merits of it will be discussed.
Okay.
At a later time.
Yeah, it sounds like they may have a plan if they're asking to untable it, so I got no problem.
They better come with a plan. I'm not gonna sit here and table it. They gotta come with a plan. Table it and just sit there and have the what ifs again. I mean, I think that's what you're saying.
So
On a separate matter, under the consent calendar, I just have a question. So the new property address, 1 Pier Road, are they changing that parcel to, is it been rezoned? Is there something that they're planning to do with that piece of vacant? Do we know?
So the yacht club is 9 Pierre Road.
This is
So-
across the street. It's like that grassy area that I think that they're looking to, at least that's what on the map it has. It's the
Yeah.
grassy area that doesn't have
Hmm.
anything. And so
Well,
there's a
no,
parking lot, so I'm just trying to figure out what the purpose of.
So the building official sent the council a letter to acknowledge that as a new property address, but no explanation is given.
So they subdivided the property?
So this is the lot across the street where there's a karate school right now?
So, I mean, what it looks like on the map, there's the building, there's the parking lot, and then there's the grass area. So I'm trying to figure out what part of that.
I think Talkwanton owns that grass area.
No, not across, no, right directly across from the yacht club. Across from the Lewis,
The
John
brick,
Lewis.
the brick building with the karate.
right, there's a parking lot, and then there's some grass
Yeah.
property. I'm trying to figure out what part. I just need some more clarification on
So
that.
who's requesting this property number addition? Normally, with these are associated with postal,
Not necessarily.
Numbers.
It's just a reassignment of a number. Usually can be new construction, it just can be a new realignment, but this is done through the clerk's office after the request of the building official.
you said a building official requested this?
The building official sent a letter to notify the council, but I can go into my office and get the letters if you want to review it. It does have the applicant's name of the address itself on the letter. It's just not standard for us to put the name on the docket, right?
Is that letter in the packet?
No,
No.
I can go get it.
Well, that's all right. We don't want to hold, if this is the only question, we could hold that one off
Yeah.
and do the others and come back next meeting with number 1.
Yeah, I just like a better clarification on what, not that I'm for or against it, I just, some of these new numbering of properties don't make sense. You know, I don't have an understanding of them. Some of them, I think one of the last ones we did was on Warren Avenue, and it was because the home didn't have, it was just like a numeral error. So they had to do that, but some of it, it just seems like it's a lot and they're looking to numbers. So I just would like better clarification.
Yeah, it's an issue I've brought up in the past about these postal numbers. For instance, that entire neighborhood development, if you will, in Riverside, which has a Barrington zip code. And therefore, they get no bulk mail generated
This doesn't.
for East Providence.
This is our zoning office subdivided.
Building,
They're building subdivided in that property.
but we don't have the owner of the property.
These are just assigned once there's either a subdivision or this is just an administrative thing, but I understand if you want more information, that's fine, but there's no.
Yeah,
zoning
it's
change
not,
here.
it's not a zoning
not
change.
a
They
zone
can build
change.
whatever it's zoned for.
It's an administrative thing that, so a property has a correct mailing address or a
Yeah.
designation for future, for, EMS, those type of things, so.
Yeah, so if I just have more information on it, if that's all it is, then,
I'm looking up the map and plat now on the DLA.
okay.
So if it's just that one, can we proceed with the rest of the consent
Mhm.
calendar? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that. And we'll get clarification on number
So-
1 Pier Road.
So just so I'm clear on the request to untable, we'll put that on the next agenda
Yes.
from a formal vote and you can decide then, okay?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer, Mr. Meyer's in the audience. I just want to inform him so that his request to untable will be put on the next agenda
Sure.
for consideration.
Thank you. If you can keep it brief, it's not really a public hearing, but
Procedural question. So it's untabled, and the next meeting going to have it.
no, it's not untabled yet.
So the request to untable now will be on the agenda for a formal untabling. They didn't vote tonight to untable it. They just accepted your letter asking for, it,
Oh, okay. So at the next meeting, they're going to vote to untable it.
if they do so.
So the question I have procedurally is that, is there a hearing that night, or do we get to a
No.
hearing date?
So if they decide to untable it, then we will set a hearing date on your application.
That's what I understand. Okay, so I don't prepare a hearing for that date. It's 4 or 6 weeks, whatever the heck it is, forward. 3 weeks, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Madam Clerk.
You have the option to bundle licenses 1 through 17. You want me to go through the 17 licenses?
I don't see a need to.
No, we've all had the agenda unless someone has a question on,
I'll make a motion to bundle to start the discussion, but I didn't see anything onerous in here.
Nope, my only confirmation would be the solicitor, the solicitor license that this company is aware of they get a copy of our ordinance about times and that they can and cannot be. Okay.
And these, they already passed their police check? That's why it's in front of us now? Okay.
so the first motion in order is just to bundle items 1 through 17 by Councilman Lawson. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
I'll make a motion to accept 1 through 17.
Second?
Motion to accept the bundle by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next item.
Under public communication, we have Richard Ferreira speaking on signage.
Captain, welcome.
Good evening, honorable members of the council. I brought some photographs that Councilwoman Souza was good enough to pass around. And it's signage coming in my travels to different communities. I happened to pick this one out because it does display the viability of that town and Cape Cod. And what I'm suggesting is that rather than having signage coming in saying entering East Providence, but what does that mean? Uh, These signs, these brackets, which by the way shouldn't cost more than two carpenters to do for a couple of $1,000 a piece. The logos are being paid by the groups or associations, not paid by the city. These signs that I'm suggesting show viability for East Providence, shows inclusion. It shows that we're an active community and not just a suburb of Providence. Some of the associations that could participate would be the Kiwanis, the Rotary, the Masons, the Fraternal Order of Police, the American Legion, Knights of Columbus. And as these logos come in, those wings on the side that you see where the Mason sign is are just add-ons. Now, it's not a big budget item, but I noticed when I was looking at these Providence Post, there was a block ad, and advertising is not cheap, as you know. And, this is not cheap signs, but this is an inexpensive way to advertise the viability of East Providence. So I'm just suggesting to the council that you look into it. I've already sent an email and a photograph to the mayor's office. I haven't heard anything back, but everybody is busy, so I'm not going to take a lot of time. I respect the fact that you are busy. So I just would like you to just consider this, because our budget will be coming up for your discussion. And it's not a big item, but it could be very popular among the different organizations that make up East Providence. In closing, I'd just like to thank a councilman from Ward 4, the Veterans Committee. It's on the agenda, and he's done a great job in chairing this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farrer. And I'd be more than happy to champion this for you. I'm a big fan of aesthetics, and I think this is awesome. I do believe, we got the Rotaries, the Lions. There's so many organizations that I'm pretty sure they'd be enthused to be able to get their name out there in this way.
We have money
Yep.
allocated for placemaking.
Yep. We just got to put it together.
Just gotta
Yeah.
move. Great idea.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain.
Renee.
Next item.
Renee Ignacio, speaking on city property.
Sure. Thanks.
Hi,
Welcome.
my name is Renee Ignacio, and I live at 15 Madeline Drive. And I have had issues with the city property. This is my backyard. This is the city property where my fence is. Anna Souza has had the pleasure of visiting my yard previously. This is overgrowth that comes over my yard. We have been there for 20 years. My husband has always kept this land clean until he died 11 years ago of ALS. My son has tried. We cannot do it anymore. The pitches are horrific. I can't keep it up. My landscaper charges us an arm and a leg to cut it back. We have come to the city, the mayor, when we had our issue in 2021. He came to our yard and he said, we will get somebody back here to come and cut it down. In the back of the packet, you will see a letter from Mr. Severy. We were here over the summer with my mother, who you do not want to come and talk to you. That they're understaffed and they can't get anybody here until maybe the fall. This has been the excuse since 2021. I've been fighting this since 2012 when my husband passed away. I can't afford my landscapers. I wanted a new fence put in. I don't have a picture of it. The white fence with the pool. My fence company could not put the fence in until my neighbor cleaned the yard next door. That's how bad their yard was. I have a boat next door. It was so bad that I can't get anything done. The neighbor on the other side of me puts up an 8-foot fence. They left their chain link fence. I have to clean between their fences. I have to clean the neighbor's fences. I have to clean the city property fence. I can't do it. We have called all this time and we can't get anybody there. I know this is not someplace I need to come, but I don't know what else to do. I shouldn't have to live like this. It brings in rats. It brings in snakes. It brings in the coyotes. I have the fox. I have everything that you can think of. In 2012, in 2001, we had 7 rats in our house. And Mr. Rodriguez and Anna, you saw the pictures. I do not want that again. I will not live through that. I don't know where to go. I have tried everything.
So let me ask you, so you have complaints on 2 fronts, city property, but also neighbors as well?
There,
Their property that is,
believe it or not, the neighbor that we had the issue with, we're kind of
right,
mending.
working that out,
our
okay.
fences. The other side, they did clean up their property to get the fence up, but it's just, I can't do it. So now it's city property. It's so bad that it's like we have to duck just to go to the back wall.
So from your earliest communications with the city and your first, no one has appeared at all, going back a few years?
Nope.
Okay.
And I know, Mr. Fogarty, like you said, we all need to pitch in. We all need to step up. I can't even cut it. My son has just spent another couple $100 to buy more stuff to try to cut this stuff. It's so thick.
Yeah.
I wasn't referring to you.
No. I know, but
Yeah, no,
I'm
it's
just
too
saying,
much to
like-
ask of you you shouldn't have to be, this is pretty thick stuff. So I'm sure I'm going to ask the chief of staff, can you try to get this expedited?
So I would say this is probably a fall project when it thins out. So you
it
can
doesn't even thin out. It's
really in the,
it's so bad back there. The
Oh, okay.
stickers,
so we just got to go in with like a bobcat and clear it out.
I don't want things ripped out. I just want it clean, like 5 feet back there. I mean,
So if we don't tear it out though, it's just going to keep growing back
right, but it's
and you're going to keep having the problem.
right. And what happened was a long time ago, people that don't have a fence back there,
Right.
I have the stone wall,
Mhm.
were going back there and cleaning it. Which
Right.
was what my husband was doing, and we were keeping it clean for all those years.
Right.
But, I mean, I'm single. I can't.
All right. I agree.
But I think if you get it trimmed pretty well, you'll get a few years out of that.
Bring it down to the nub. Yeah.
There's a lot of poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac.
Okay.
My mom and my son were back there, and they were covered in it.
We can send Frank Rigo in then.
I'm happy you came tonight. Renee, I'm happy you came tonight. I
Thank you.
appreciate you coming forward and get it into the attention of the city again, because that's what it takes. And not to be mean or cruel, it's just that you see the overgrowth comes, there's only so many workers, and not to push it down the road, but we will take care of it as best we can. I
My-
haven't forgot.
My fear is if, God forbid, a fire from the neighbor's grill because I have grills, I have flat tops, I have everything. Any one of those catches on fire, that whole back is gonna go up. And you and Mr. Rodriguez live back there.
I do live, and I've been there, and I appreciate you coming. And I know the city's working hard with what they have. And I think you'll be moved up based on 21, but the fall's coming, and I believe the staff will take care of you.
We will get on it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And keep us informed, if you don't see any activity in a while, get back, give us a call, knock on our doors,
Yeah.
Yeah, talk to Patricia and
Okay.
thank you, Renee. Welcome. Yes, Mr. Solicitor.
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to, while this was going on, I did a little research with the Councilwoman Souza. That's the One Pier Road. That's the Live Nation property. Where they're putting the,
Just so you know,
Just so you know.
we'll bring it up next. Thank you. Anyone else?
Nancy Hale, speaking on solving RIPTA in 3 minutes or less.
Welcome, Nancy.
Okay, I'm getting better at this.
Nancy, can I just say I like your hairstyle? It's very nice.
It's working out well.
It looks really, really nice.
Thank you. It's a
Are
lot
you looking for
easier to-
votes, Councilwoman?
No, she's not in my ward. I don't need to
Oh,
give
okay.
accolades for votes.
Okay, before I get started with fixing RIPTA in 3 minutes or less, hold on, my notebook's upside down.
This is good. You're going to solve RIPTA in 3 minutes.
In 3 minutes or less, and this is by riding on.
Clock is going. too.
Right, okay, all right, let's go. I just want to give a short report from the South End, which is Ward 4. Thanks to Rick Lawson's steadfast commitment to the reinstatement of a clam shack, despite my overwhelmed concern regarding serious microplastics in Narragansett Bay, a shack is back and it's wicked good. Actually, I think it's more than a shack. It's much more like a restaurant. You can even get pan-seared tuna with a tomato peach salad. The lobster roll might be a little expensive, but you have to consider the convenience factor. So it's all right. And there's less expensive things like the great clam cakes. You get 3 big ones for about $8. And they even have clear broth clam chowder. So I don't have to drive to Jamestown for that. It's great. The directions are go south on Bullocks Point Avenue, park in a lot where the Blount's Clam Shack used to be. Then I promised to recognize our carousel manager, Tracy. I want to say Tracy Johnson. All right. I screw up on names sometimes. For keeping those horses going round and round under some very demanding conditions. She has developed a great team of reliable employees who work in harmony and create a safe and hospital experience. And that's really, really good. All right, now to RIPTA. You've got to use your imagination here, and you have to stop thinking about Providence as the center of everything. I suggest a hubless. That means no hub. That's a lot less expensive than surveys about where to put a hub or building a hub. And I also suggest think about it looking like a spider web, somewhat. Clean, moving, free, and full of people. Now, charging people $2 a ride, and then also the whole thing with the plastic cards, which were out of stock when I tried to get them. It's just crazy. You get like 8 people on a bus. They all pay $2. So you're getting $16. And I suggest that East Providence, especially, and the rest of Rhode Island too, because of the 195 debacle, deserve some buses and to get it up and running before the current bridge is demolished. If we can put any funds that are available from anywhere and get RIPTA moving free and full of people, we'll have less cars on the road, which is better for the environment, but it's also better for RIPTA because then we can get feedback from more riders and build a better system. Figure out which lines we really need, which lines maybe we need to revise or omit. So I developed this on a bus ride from the Honeydew Plaza, which also is getting much better, to try to get my car, which I had left in Barrington, which should be a 10-minute ride, but it took 3 hours. Luckily, had a lot of fun joking around with someone, a fellow rider, about the suggestions that we've heard to fix the RIPTA situation. Hubless, web, clean, moving, free, and full of people who can then give feedback to build a better situation. And, you know, some places you might have what we were calling nodules, but I don't think that's really a good word. Nodes, no, the word was nodes, but basically they'd be bus stops that are a little bit more sophisticated with some green space and some decent snack bars. So that if you're a mother taking a kid into the city, like, and you have to make a switch, you can at least get a healthy enough, snack and, in a reasonably good environment, but not a hub where the hub just seems to collect problems of all sorts. And I think we all know that. Okay. Here's my diagram. Looks like a spider web. And those long pieces of the web would be more like direct express routes. And then if you need to go from, for example, imagine taking a boat from Bristol to Cranston, like a ferry or a bigger boat. And I don't see why we can't get this done if we have the Navy in Rhode Island and the Coast Guard nearby. So by next summer, our transportation system could look like a web and also be a little touristy attractive with boat rides from in certain places where it would work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Next, please.
Under council members' request for dog bag dispensers and trash dispensers at city parks, discuss Councilwoman Sousa.
Thank you. So this is part of a bigger ask or project for the city. So we currently have a dog park in Rumford. We're newly or finishing up one in the Ken Heights area. We have wonderful parks throughout the city that are getting facelifts and that people walk their animals throughout the city. But what I've noticed is that there aren't a lot of dispensers of dog bags or trash reciprocals to put them in. I know Weaver Library, for instance, has a couple around their property, which is great because, again, a large number of people walk their animal in that area. Hull Street is another neighborhood that the park is currently under construction, the field with the drainage system, and I know that the administration had mentioned that there were grant money for new equipment and giving that park a facelift, so that would be an opportune time to add those dog bag dispensers, so that way we don't have them all over the grass, on the sidewalks, and those who actually do use a bag have a place to drop it, because what I do notice on walks is that people are just dropping their bags on corners or on people's property and bushes, which just adds to the litter around the city that could be prevented if they had a place to drop it along the city. So if we could look into that park, particularly right now at Hull Street, where we're under construction and doing some remodeling to get those at least 2 or 3 around the school or the property, that would be great. And then future have a conversation on where maybe in the center of the city there could be a good location for a smaller size dog park for someone in the center of the city to visit.
I think Crescent Park had a dispenser for the bags as well. Not sure if it's still up there or if they fill it from time to time.
It's not there anymore. No.
No more? They took it up?
Yeah. So I think it's a good, I mean, I obviously don't know what the municipality cost would be for acquiring such an, what I think would be an inexpensive pole with a dispenser and a little garbage can. But I think there are definitely a number of places throughout the city on city property that we could use. I mean, even here at City Hall, we could probably have one right outside where people are walking. They could grab their bags, because I know I use the trash can here all the time, every morning to drop my dog bag.
So I think it's a good idea. I know the Kent Field project, when I visited that with the construction team, they are planning to do that. So hopefully that'll get us to do it all other parks as well. It doesn't make sense to have a dog park without those bags and dispensers. So good idea.
Yeah, but in the interim, I think there are other locations.
Yeah, the other locations,
that,
sure.
are great. And if people need suggestions, I'm more than happy to throw an email list of locations.
But to be clear, it is the dog owner's responsibility to clean up after their dog.
I agree. But if they don't have a bag, at least the
They
bag-
should bring it back.
No,
They should bring.
no, I know, I get it. But I mean, I've gone on long walks where I've run out of bags.
I get it, but the city, we can't do everything for everybody.
So it is a busy dog. He's very, he has a good digestive tract. For sure.
Okay, thank you. Before we go on with council concurrence, I don't know if we have to. I know our police chief is here in the audience, and I always, as a courtesy, would offer police chief, fire chief, if they're on the agenda, if we could move them up. So without objection, I know we have a few other items to talk about, but rather than have our chief of police, and he has some command staff here, sit here through the night, and they're welcome to, but I believe you're here, chief, on the resolution for the station repairs and renovation. So if there's no objection, I would,
Make a motion to move up the resolution regarding.
motion by Councilwoman Souza, seconded by Councilman Fogarty. I believe it's number 4 on the resolutions on page 10 of the agenda for those following along. And Chief, if you want to go ahead and describe this.
Captain Reposer is going to pass out a packet that kind of goes into detail of why we're making the recommendation that we're making.
Thanks, Cap.
Thank you, Captain.
Did I see it was the chief's birthday this week?
I did see that.
Ah.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Birthday.
That's why we're letting him out a little early tonight.
Right? Appreciate it. Very good present. So we've, as you know, we've been working with JCJ Architecture to come up with a renovation plan for our building, a much needed renovation plan. We also have Keith Mercy here from JCJ, who has a presentation ready if you would like to see the proposed renovation. But first, we are recommending ADS Construction as the contractor for the job. They were the second lowest bidder. We received 6 bids. The ADS was the second, and Tower Construction was the lowest bidder. There was a very small 1% difference in their bid. The roughly $3 million job was about a $30,000 difference. So after the bids were opened and made public, we received Captain Raposa, who's here and can expand upon it further. We received an unsolicited, commentary about the quality of tower construction. And we did our due diligence to investigate that further. We spoke to prior folks who had work done, municipalities who had work done by Tower and also by ADS. And we uncovered quite a few issues with tower construction that gave us pause to recommend them as the company that we would go with. It circled around a couple consistent themes. First, with each of these projects consistently going over budget. Several change orders with each of these projects, which drove the cost up sometimes 20, 25% over what the bid was. The other issue we heard consistently was the quality of the workmanship, which gave us great pause. Some of these folks we spoke to wish not to go on on record because of pending, potential litigation. And, we also did our due diligence with ADS, and it was quite the opposite, what we heard about this company. So that, in a nutshell, is why we are recommending going with ADS Construction, who is also happens to be located here in East Providence. But the packet that we just handed out goes into what I mentioned in significant more depth.
Thank you, Chief. I would just add that speaking for myself, I respect your recommendation. Having been familiar with hundreds of similar contracts through the years, the lowest bid isn't always the best. You have to look at all of the things that you've investigated and the quality of the work, and we're not talking a lot of money here. So I don't want to waste a lot of time with more presentations. We've been talking about getting this police station
We
done.
okay legally?
I think to be a police chief, again, it's the lowest qualified responsive bidder.
Okay.
I think based upon the investigation that was done by the department and the recommendations and the comments they got, I think we're more than justified of
Okay.
again, and the difference between the low and the next highest bid was $30,000. So we're not talking huge differentials here.
Okay.
And change orders could potentially go beyond that 30,000.
Good, yeah.
When you open
Might
up
not.
a wall, you never know what's,
Never know.
so.
One thing I should add is we also met in person with each of the companies to discuss this. And one of the things, we asked Towers if they've had any disciplinary action by the state contractors board. They told us no, and we did locate 2 disciplinary issues in 2022. So that's also in the packet here.
Captain Raposa, you've done a lot of work on this. Did you need to add anything while you're here? Or-
Sir, I think the chief covered everything.
Through the chair.
Councilman Fogarty.
Chief, start date, finish date? If approved?
ADS is in a position to start when we spoke with them the following day, just the way things fell. And we hope we put end of February as a target completion date.
Thank you.
And through the chair,
Councilman.
there is about 500,000 left over. You got everything that the EPPD needs from this plan.
Yeah, we're very happy with the plan, and we're prepared to lay it out for you if you.
I don't need to see it, but if you guys think the public
I'd like to.
would like to see it, it may not be bad to have it.
Yeah, I would like to see it.
But you did get everything that
Yes, we're
we need for 2024 policing.
very, very happy.
Okay.
Very, very happy with it. So
If you guys want to run through the design, I believe you gave her.
Sure.
Yeah, just so the public can see what they're looking at.
Well, this young man came out of his way for his presentation, so I appreciate it.
Okay, before we do that, so let's vote on the resolution.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second,
Motion by Councilman Fogarty to approve the resolution, seconded by Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that, 5-0. And proceed with the overview.
Great. Thank you very much. My name is Keith Mercy from JCJ Architecture. I've been working with the department for about 6 months or so, putting the plan together and getting the documents together. So we tried to maximize the space of the station without changing the footprint by reorganizing department spaces and by maximizing unutilized space in the building. So everything that's shown in this red hatch is areas of the building we're touching. This is the lower level right now. Up on the top is the defunct firing range. There's a 2-lane firing range, hasn't been used in years. The cost to bring it back up to speed was way too much money, and they needed the space much more. So instead of that, we're using that for a lot of much needed storage. There's traffic storage, honor guard, SWAT storage. There's an office for K9, and there's ammunition spot as well. So right now, when they bring ammunition in, they have to bring it in box by box in the building. Now they can actually bring it up a pallet jack directly into the building. We're adding a small ramp in the back. It just goes up 8 inches, but it once again helps them bring the stuff directly into the building. It's been revised a little bit, so the K9 can now use that. So the K9, it's not meant to store the K9s, but if they're in the building and they need to take a meeting, there's a couple cages in the K9 space where they can keep the dogs while they're in the building. So it's not a kennel, but it's a space to keep them in the building. And they can access that from directly outside. We have some evidence package, some traffic. In the center, on the bottom right there is, we took an office and a storage area and combined it and put it into a fitness room. The station used to have a fitness room and it had to get taken over a few years ago to expand the women's locker room. So we were able to get,
Through the chair, that fitness room was downstairs
yes.
at the original fitness room? That
The original fitness room was used to expand the women's locker room. So now on the other side of roll call, we're adding a small fitness room in there as well. The men's and women's locker rooms, we're changing the bathrooms a little bit just to make them up to current ADA standards. So just a little refresh there. And then in the detention, which is on the right side, we're adding a hard interview room and a new booking desk, as well as an emergency eye wash station in the Sally Port. Eye wash is needed for accreditation. They need a place to be able to wash prisoners off. Hard interview room, right now, they have to take detainees upstairs and bring them through the building to get them to the interview room. So this really resolves a lot of the problems. It revolves bringing detainees or public into private spaces in the building. So if you go to the next slide, please. So on the main level, as you can see, we're touching a lot more. The whole right area is the detective suite. That's the area of the existing detective suite, but reconfiguring to make it more open, give them a breakout room, a new hard interview room directly off of that, which is off the corridor, and some offices. On the top, we are adding a bunch of offices for the lieutenants and the sergeants. We are changing the 2 public bathrooms in the lobby. We're making them bigger. We're making them up to current accessibility standards. We're putting the OIC, which is the officer in charge, directly off the lobby. And we're putting report writing next to him as well. The lobby we made a little bit smaller because it was once again unused space. So by doing that, we're able to add a soft interview and a domestic violence office right off the lobby. So that way anyone from the public coming in can go directly into those interview rooms. The police can exit from the private side. There's no cross mingling of public versus private anymore.
Can I point something out real quick? This is where the dispatch was, right?
Correct. Yes. That and directly above it, we're now adding 2 men's and women's bathrooms and we're adding a break room. That's the area where the dispatch was, which was kind of the catalyst of the whole project. It was trying to make use of that space again. And by moving things up, we just kind of helped the flow quite a bit as well. If you go to the next slide, please. So this is just the roof. We're replacing the air handling unit on the roof. It's past its useful life expectancy. We're also adding some supplemental steel. When the building was constructed in the 80s, they didn't really account for snow loads, which is if you have a big bus-sized piece of equipment on the roof, in the wintertime, a bunch of snow builds up on it, adds a lot of weight. Buildings historically have failed because of that. So because we're touching this now and it's directly above the detective suite, which we're already touching, we're adding some supplemental steel. We're replacing that rooftop unit. And the boiler as well is getting replaced in there. So basically all the systems are getting a good refresh. Next slide, please. And then it's not part of this project, but the department is going separately to buy some new furniture to fit out these spaces. So everything in red is the new desks and the new layouts, new chairs for roll call, a couple new desks, a couple desks for K9 as well. And you go to the next slide. And then the upper level, as you can see, all the offices are getting new furniture. The 2 interview rooms are, some seating in the interview room, OIC, detectives, and payroll areas all getting, it's all getting a refresh, paint, finishes, and new furniture. And that's the extent.
Chief, you guys are good being able to take care of your day-to-day while this is going on?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Just to back up a little bit, a few of the things that I feel really shine in this new design, starting with the lower level, the cell block area. It's moving some things around, which is going to lend to safety, improving safety down there. Putting that interview room down there is, as Keith mentioned, we now, anytime we want to talk to a prisoner, we have to bring them upstairs. We walk past my office, the major's office. We walk past, civilians in prosecution into detectives. It's not laid out very well. Also, upstairs with the detective suite. Right now, when a detective brings a victim or a witness in there, it's, there's no privacy. So this was designed to provide some privacy, get out of that kind of fishbowl that it is right now. Also, the lobby. This is huge for us. Making that lobby smaller and providing those 2 soft interview rooms right off the lobby provides some privacy. Right now, if someone comes in and they want to talk to us, we either have to talk to them in the lobby, potentially in front of other people, or bring them into the secure area. And we're not quite sure what the deal is with that person yet. So this provides us to go to a private area, but not go into the secure area. Another huge thing with this is we're adding windows. So you've all been to the police station, you've been by the police station. The back of that building, I think, has maybe 2 existing windows. We're adding windows in the back, we're adding windows on the side, get some natural daylight in there. Also, we need those extra bathrooms a lot. There's a shortage in there for the amount of people. So being able to add those bathrooms is huge for us. And then in the back, top of the slide here, those captain's offices, much needed. Right now, Captain Raposa, shares an office in what's going to be the fitness room with, others. So we're getting that like captain suite up there where they're all able to interact, work together. So there's a lot of very sensible solutions to issues we were having in this design.
I'm thrilled. Thank you. I'm happy for you guys.
As far as keeping the building open, we took a lot of thought into that as far as phasing. Right now, the plan is to have at least 3 phases. When we meet with ADS, we might expand it, but there's discussions about detainees being taken to a neighboring town for a while we do the detention area. Detectives, we have plans to move them so they can be back in their place and the rooftop unit can get done. So we have thought it through. That's why the construction is a little longer than anticipated, because we have to phase it because it's a 24/7 building that has to stay open.
Is Briar and Sweetland still available? Wasn't Internal Affairs over with Briar?
No, they're here now.
Right, but are those buildings still, in case you need them for some overflow?
Don't believe so. I know
Okay.
they were, the use of Sweetland House was restricted to certain uses.
Okay.
But we have a pretty decent plan. We're going to start in detectives. We're going to be moving the detectives out into temporary workspaces, knock that out, put them back, and then, move from there.
Very nice. We're happy for you.
We're thrilled.
We got your back. Anything you need.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions by the council?
Nope.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's all approved. Good luck. Madam Clerk, we resume the regular agenda, please.
Discussion and possible vote to hire temporary legal counsel for ordinances and resolutions. Discuss and vote. Councilwoman Sousa.
So this is more of a discussion, doesn't necessarily have to take a vote. I know that we have our law office that currently has just our city solicitor, since our assistant city solicitor has left the city for personal reasons. And so now the workload falls solely on one man and his team of 2 in the office. So I'd like to know from the solicitor the workload in terms of, because there are things that I'd like to discuss with law and potentially have ordinances and work on things. But I know, being one person and dealing with a multitude of things besides just ordinances and resolutions, there's contracts and your day to day. And I know the administration has put out for a solicitor or assistant solicitor, and I think there's been a couple of bites potentially, but there hasn't been anything formally decided yet or come before the council, and I don't know when that will happen, but I don't want to prolong work either. So I kind of wanted to get a little bit of feedback on how the law office is doing in terms of workload, and then to see if the council is opposed to, we do have a line item for legal, so it could be on a case-by-case basis, and it would have to come before the body anyways to expend the funds for it. But I just wanted some input from our solicitor to see where his office stands right now in terms of capacity to do or take on additional council work.
Thank you for the inquiry. So just to give you an update, we did advertise for assistant city solicitor in Rhode Island Lawyers Weekly. I think the week before, we've gotten a couple of applications where we just scheduled an interview with one individual for next week. There haven't been a lot of applicants, to be quite honest with you, at least qualified applicants. We had a couple of people who had not even passed the Rhode Island bar yet. So, but as far as the workload, when I saw this on the agenda, I did speak with Robin because I was concerned that we were somehow behind in our resolutions or ordinances, and I'm happy to say that we're not. We're all caught up. There's nothing pending that any council member that I know of has asked, and we haven't been able to get to. As you know, I work for a pretty big firm, so to the extent that I need extra help, I've been doing some stuff using some people in my office to help me out, but it really hasn't been that much. And Dylan's firm is still helping us with the prosecution, so I haven't taken on that role yet until we find someone to do that. So I know Councilman Lawson, I think the other day asked for a resolution. We got that out pretty quickly for you. So is it more busy? Absolutely, but at this point, I think we're okay, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks the mayor will make a recommendation to you for an assistant city solicitor. But I think right now we're okay. And to the extent that you have any, ordinances that you want to work on, all you have to do is call me, make an appointment. I've been pretty good about answering your calls. So,
And to clarify, we provide the info for the resolution, or Robin can technically write them. You review what she did, and then it moves forward.
depends how complicated it is. If it's like a new issue, she has a lot.
Right,
stuff.
absolutely.
But
But
yeah,
Robin's here full time.
Robin does a great job with the resolutions because she's done so many of
Exactly.
them. If it's a unique thing, she'll ask me to give her a couple pointers. But generally, she has a lot of things in the
So-
hopper that she has used as forms.
Between now and when an assistant is selected, if you feel the workload's getting there, do we have a plan to let us know that, hey, we'd like to go out, or you already have that ability to hire?
Not that I just use other people from my firm that help me out.
Okay.
Actually, honestly, I haven't really done that. I had somebody cover a zoning board or planning board meeting for me from my office.
Okay.
But nothing as far as drafting. That's all been done by me.
So if it does get heavy, you can
We'll
let
you
us know?
yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll get someone in soon. So
And the other thing is, if we wait a little bit, see how the application process goes, and we have the budget process to go into pretty soon, and the city has always hired, sometimes on a case-by-case basis, if there's a lawsuit or a case in court that requires outside attorney. So I think we're okay for the time being. So let's keep it as an open conversation and see how it goes.
And I will say, Ann, I do support you if we do need to go out with somebody to help.
I just wanted to get a feel because I have been keeping things on the back burner because I know with only one person, I didn't know what the workload is, and that's why I wanted to have the conversation. So I'm appreciative.
Yep. Let me know, and I'll be happy to make an appointment whenever you need.
Great. Thank you so much.
Right, good discussion. Thank you.
We can tie mine with the, with the Rumford motor in on this. You can't.
Bring that closer, bud.
You said I was fine. All right. Jesus Christ. I know, you said I was fine before, so. Okay, so we can tie in my motion with this, because the question I have is, I would have in the assistant solicitor, and God forbid we have to go there. Number 4, it says, this preliminary injunction shall remain in full force and effect until the litigation is resolved or until further order of the court. So if things get resolved, if this was the hypothetical going to happen, we need to have somebody ready. I'm not saying to go out and do it right now, because Mike can't sit there and represent the city and put this on trial. This is an issue we have. I mean, and what happens too if there's another major outbreak?
The only thing is, that case has been resolved. It's
If there's
legally, we have a restraining order.
But tonight there's a murder there. We can't have a show cause hearing.
No,
Right.
on the license, we can't have a show
license.
cause on the license, but there might be other avenues to.
That's, I mean, there's other things.
Police would do their thing, but
But again, number 4, you you can represent both the city and us in this matter?
I believe so, yeah.
We're not doing what we did before, where he was representing the city, Dylan was representing us. The judge put the kibosh on that.
Yeah, but if you read again, number 4, he can lift that at any time, you see, until further order of the court. If tomorrow he lifts the order, did you hear what I just read?
I did, but I don't see him lifting the order.
Let me explain.
Hypothetically, he could. But you guys don't want to do it, that's fine. That's good. I'll withdraw I'll table that motion.
Yeah, I mean, the judge basically said, you guys don't have any ability to talk about this license. So I understand absolutely run for motor in. If something egregious happens again, we do have to find a mechanism to hold them accountable. So maybe we could find out for next meeting or let us know what our ability to
I mean,
do.
It becomes a public nuisance. It becomes it's a different issue. But the issue before the court was whether or not we had the ability to have a show cause hearing on the
Correct.
license. And the court ruled that we do not have that ability, and it's a temporary order right now. And he will not lift it until such time as that we file. And I read the decision that he made, and I'm happy to share the transcript with you if you need to, if Dylan hasn't already done so. Basically, he said, look, I'll hear other argument. I don't think we have to have a trial on this, but if, submit legal briefs. I've talked to Dylan, and Dylan indicated to me anyway that, that our case was not that great because he'd already made a ruling that
Right.
under the statute, we did not have the ability to issue a license. So
And how many cities license hotels and motels?
one.
Just us. So that's probably why the judge is saying this isn't a. Okay.
But we're monitoring the situation. I did talk to the councilman about another issue that came up last week. But I did enter an appearance of the case because Dylan withdrew. I didn't want to leave the city, but
There's frustration all around. And
I agree.
But I think legally, the judge has made a ruling. We don't have to like it, but we have to listen to it. And my frustration now, and maybe down the line, we can look at this further. I don't think the current owner has been very forthcoming. They told us they were going to sell. There was a buyer. We had a meeting. It looked like it was going to happen, and nothing's happened. But that's separate and apart from the legal case.
And we will be getting an assistant solicitor soon, Frank. And they could be represented. Again, this is a tricky situation because the judge kind of tied our hands to be able to hold them accountable.
Yeah, in reality. Okay.
The next time drones are in the neighborhood, I'll make sure I call you all at 4 in the morning.
Could you go back to the next item, please?
Discuss second annual Harvest Fest. Discuss Councilwoman Sousa.
Thank you. So we're approaching the end of summer and entering into the fall, which is actually one of my favorite times of the year. The temperature is crisp and a lot of fun activities occur. So last year, the council put on a really nice Harvest Fest. The city has multiple October festivals, usually every weekend, which we're always excited to be a part of. So I just wanted to put it out for the public and on the council's radar that plans in getting that event to happen again will be in the works.
Do you have a date in mind, or are you going to check with the other activities?
Yeah, we don't want to overlap
Cal-
things.
Yes, I'm going to check
Yeah.
the city calendar.
Make sure. All right, keep us informed. There was a great success last year.
And if it's a Sunday when the Patriots are playing, I'm not available.
It will not be on a Sunday,
But there's a new coach this year.
Doesn't matter.
but it does
Odd
give
family
something
football,
for the
buddy.
moms to do while dads are home watching the games.
Thank you. We look forward to that. Next item.
East Providence City Council Veterans Advisory Committee update. Discuss Councilman Lawson.
So this is more just an announcement for you all. And September 21st, we are going to hold a coffee hour information session. I don't know what the branding will be. It's going to be at Weaver Library, 9 o'clock. We're going to start. We'll probably go for a couple hours. Basically, we're just gonna, veterans come in as they want, and we're gonna have some information for them on the various benefits available to veterans. I reached out to Kasimyan, his office, Greg Amori. We got some other groups that are gonna be coming in, and if there's any businesses that offer services to veterans, you can reach out to me at Ward 4 Council at eastprovidenceri.gov, where you're more than welcome to come. And, basically we're holding these for fellowship among veterans and to let them know what's available out there.
What was the location?
Weaver Library, September 21st, and we're going to start at 9 a.m. We have a meeting next week. We'll discuss what we want to do. If it's just going to be coffee, maybe we'll offer light breakfast or something. Who knows? We'll figure that out. We do have money from the Veterans Fund to cover. And so I want to put that on the table. And also Veterans Day, last year's appreciation dinner went well. So we definitely want to do that. Brother Frank, if St. Martha's is available, I think that worked well with the kitchen. And we'll find a date. November 11th is Veterans Day, so that week makes sense. November 10th is the Marine Corps birthday, so we don't want to do that. But we'll find a date, and just like last year, pasta dinner, and we'll push it more this year. Hopefully we get a bigger crowd. Though last year went well. It's a Monday, November 11th. All right, so one of the days that week or the week before. Yeah. Oh, yeah, maybe even a Saturday. So we'll figure that out. So that's it as far as the veterans. And to go with your suicide, the proclamation, 22 veterans a day. You're talking about people that post-traumatic stress. And this also goes for our first responders, too. They see the worst of the worst, and they're the ones that run towards it. And it's when you're military, first, you tend to internalize things. And I know my dad suffered from PTSD, and it manifested in cigarette smoking, and he died from COPD. So hand in hand, we honor and advocate for veterans, and we definitely want to create an atmosphere that they know that us, the people on the committee, there's somebody they can turn to. So I thank you all for your support. My fellow veteran. So thank you. That's the update from the VAC.
Do a great job.
Thank you, Councilman.
Yeah, thank you. It's been off to a great start in building. The last event that we had, there was some great conversations with veterans and families. And
we got a good group. We got the people that we appointed, and we got Patricia's awesome. She's at every meeting. We got Troy Jessup with the I get it back. Blue Star families, Veterans Inc. with the Elks. They have input too. So it's just not, a few of us. It is a lot of people at the table offering their insights and talents and energy and passion. And I'm very grateful. Very grateful.
thank you. Next item.
Request for information, each department's surplus or deficit, number of unfilled positions per department, list of all city-owned vehicles, date of purchase, and what city worker is assigned to each department budget through the third quarter of FY24. Discuss Councilman Lawson and Council Vice President Rigo.
So this was an email I had sent because we're getting the budget later than we anticipated. I was just trying to be a little proactive. So this has started coming in. You guys in your email should have some of these answers. I believe deficits and unfilled positions we received, and just a list of the city-owned vehicles, just so we get an idea of what we've purchased over the last couple of years. And Frank, did you add something?
Yeah, well, we added the city vehicles, who they're assigned to, and who brings them home at night.
Right. So that's the last piece that we're waiting on. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
We have
And again, this is just because we're getting the budget later. So we just wanted to start doing some legwork. So.
Save some time.
Yep.
The same concern through the chair on the school side too. So we'll get into that as we go through the budgets.
Thank you. We did receive electronically anyway, the school budget, so we can start to go through that. Thank you. Next item.
Request of report of work performed and work planned for Glen Mine Field. Discuss, Council Vice President Rego.
Thank you. So let me bring it up on the screen right here. Oh, go ahead. Okay. So on the 7th of May, 2024, we allocated $74,979.39. This was the city is requesting to enter into contract with Hartford Paving for the resurfacing of existing asphalt walking paths surrounding Glenline Park. What has happened since then is this is the report this is the email I got today from the chief of staff copied to the president and to the city clerk. Good morning. Per your request, Highway Department finished making repairs to cracks in walking path throughout the park. We are working with the contractor for resurfacing tennis and basketball courts as well as adding a pickleball court. Our DPW is working on pricing and painting the courts, removal of fabric of fence, replacement of chain link fence around the existing tennis courts. We are working to get an all-inclusive cost to determine if the existing budget of this project. We have installed the lights, solar-powered lights, be installed poles, solar-powered lights within the next few weeks. So my only question is, why do we pass a resolution on the 7th of May to enter into a contract to do the walking path that doesn't get done? And you know, Mr. President, as well as I do, you've got a lot of phone calls about this walking path. You can't deny that.
No denial there.
So I am a little perplexed. Past councils have authorized, and let me get it here. We got that. So we have on the 31st of October of 2023, that was our council, we allocated $150,000 in the capital budget for lighting for the baseball field. The purpose of this ordinance is to reallocate the $150,000 of the remaining unencumbered, unallocated capital budget for general and basketball courts improvements to Glenline. So we already did $150,000, as we said, towards the basketball court. Now all of a sudden, what we just did in May, is saying now it's for the basketball courts. So this was separate resolution. We already have $150,000 for the basketball courts. Then on Tuesday, the 4th of October, 2022, obviously there are two of you here. Let me bring up where it is right here. Councilman President Brito at the time made an allocation for Glenline. Let me just see in my notes. I'm sorry that I didn't have it. right here. Bradley Hospital. I'm sorry, I thought I had this marked off.
Council Vice President, are
Yeah.
these all works that were contracted under one entity, or are there multiple vendors that are participating in the overall project at Glenline?
Well, the one we did in May, we put the resolution together for Hartford paving. That never happened.
Right.
Our city workers went up there and
Crack filled.
yeah, exact, and cut it out and everything. And they also eliminated some of the walking path. They filled it in with loom.
So I guess the question in my mind is the project being delayed because, and not to you, Council Vice President, because obviously you're asking for the same answers. Is the project delayed and there was a Band-Aid put on it until Hartford Paving can address the project? Or are we not doing, is the project going south and it's not being done?
Well, God forbid I say something.
So that's my question. And I don't know if anybody has that answer.
Because again, the last time any of us spoke for somebody, everything becomes World War III around here. So I'm just going to
Let me add.
I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah,
So-
Hank, when the same couple of people that call you and me often, one in particular, and I thought things were getting better. His last phone call to me said, and he's been a pretty serious critic of the whole area, but he seemed to be, and he's a tough win, but he seemed to think that things were getting better. I haven't been out there recently. What have you seen?
No, I mean,
Any movement?
I found everything. So I might as well bring 2 months ago, I met with the DPW director up at Glenline. That was when in Patches, and I asked him about I said, are they just filling in the blanks to have Hartford come in? No, this is what we're doing. I need the money towards the basketball courts. And we walked around there, and I'll take a detector. I'll swear on 2 people's graves in Gate of Heavens that we had the conversation up there. It was a Wednesday or a Thursday afternoon. So it happened.
So Council,
Here's the crux of it. So we allocated 74,000. Now I found it, and Dodo me, I did have the page folded. So the former council on this date in 2022, it was number 8 on that meeting. It says increase in Capital Parks, line 59840, from $363,000 to $513,000, an increase of $150,000 for the purpose of installing playing field lighting at Glenline Field, introduced by Council President Brito. Motion passed unanimously 5-0. There hasn't been $513,000 worth of work up there. Why are we going through these resolutions? This is the second one that's happened. In January, we passed a resolution for rugs, and then it came back to us again. So why in the name of God are we being played this way?
So-
Hartford Paving was supposed to have done the job, and it was. We did this in May, and it was supposed to be people were supposed to walking on a beautiful path up in Glenline by 4th of July. Again, just like the Clam Shack a year ago, things come, things go.
through the chair.
Yes,
So,
Councilwoman.
Mr. Solicitor, was a contract executed with Hartford Paving to provide asphalt or a walkway at Glenline?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I can look into it. I don't know.
Did we have a resolution asking
Well,
to
no,
go
we
in.
got the resolution that we passed. After that, I mean, obviously somebody has
It's
to
authorizing the mayor. I'm assuming it says authorizing the mayor. Again, I don't know any of the facts behind that. There could be a million reasons why contract wasn't signed. I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't know. I'll get you the answer. I'll find out, but I don't know. It authorizes the mayor to sign it, obviously. But if there's a change in circumstances, maybe Hartford, I don't know. I don't want to guess. I just
Right,
want to,
right.
it's an authorization for the mayor to
Yeah,
do so.
So where's all the money?
Well, that's a good question, and I'm sure it's not spent. I'm sure it's in some account, but I think these are questions that you probably should be addressing either through the chief of staff or to the director of public works. But
Well, yeah, I mean, there's $513,000 other than the lights that went up the walking lights.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want
No.
to speculate. It could
No,
be
I
the fact
know.
that the lights went over budget. I don't know. I don't.
Well,
we
they
get-
didn't go-
these are all. I think these are all answers that can be gotten, and I'm sure the chief of staff and the Department of Public Works will listen to this tape and we'll get you the answers that you need.
So, through the chair, if the council could be updated, I would say by the end of the week is sufficient timing, given the amount of time that this money was allocated by the administration and DPW with what the breakdown of work and monies paid to vendors at that park and what is left in the balance, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I
And
think that's the reasonable road to go. Once you ask the questions, we'll get the answers. Some of them you started to get today, right? Not that specific question.
I got that answer, but that answer doesn't match up to 513,000, and it doesn't match.
Yeah, it's not a full.
It doesn't. The highway department finished making repairs to the cracks in the walking path throughout the park. You don't do that. You don't fill cracks in the walking path if Hartford was going to come in and lay asphalt down. I mean, let's be realistic here.
Right, so that's-
let's be realistic. You don't do something like that if you're going to have you're not going to patch the wall if you're going to have a plasterer come in to replaster that whole wall.
No, you're going to dig it out and put
Yeah.
in new stuff.
You're not going to pave a road if you.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
So I think point has been made. I see Ms. Fazendi's taking notes there, and I'm sure tomorrow morning the solicitor will pass along this request and
So I just want to kind of piggyback off of this topic because I think this is something that is a greater picture issue that we have in the city. And I know because of calls and emails and texts that I received from residents, and I forwarded it to the administration already, some of them. A lot of work is going on in the city during the summer months with sidewalks, curbs, parks, streets, trees, you name it. Everything is under construction in the city and throughout the state. But the one thing that I think at least myself, and I'm sure the council, and I definitely know the constituents who reach out to me on a daily and weekly basis, is where is the oversight? Somebody has to be responsible in the city to be overseeing all of these projects to ensure that they are done correctly, they are done timely, and that we are getting what we paid for or what we assumed we were paying for, at least as the council, if it's in a resolution or in a contract. We don't ever find out the outcome unless we get a call, we drive by and look at it. So I know a big problem is, in my mind, is the oversight. Who's responsible in the city to be going to all of these locations? For instance, Lyons Ave, which has been an area of a lot of conversation and concern with residents, with the sidewalks being done and the time that it's taken, and curb cuts that are added in front of driveways that were dirt driveways, and now there's a whole curb going across their driveway because the contractor didn't realize it was a driveway. All things that if there was good oversight or conversations with the neighbors would avoid additional work or delay in work. So I'd like to know that also, this week, potentially, who in what department and how regularly are they going? Are we keeping a log of the projects and who's checked it, how many times they're going out? I mean, again, I walk around and I drive around and see a lot of the projects, but I very rarely see city officials or employees in a leadership role at those sites overseeing it. Now, they could be obviously going at different times. Maybe they're there just for 5 minutes spot checking, but some of the projects are pretty substantial size projects. And if there were better or more oversight or hands-on on those projects, even though we do trust contractors, things happen, mistakes get made, things get overseen. They might not have gotten all the information, and it just causes a chain of events that later need to be repaired. So
All good points. One thing I would mention, and I have my typed notes that I brought here to the meeting because I did speak with DPW Director Dan Borges earlier today, and I wanted to make a note in case some of these topics came up. And he could not get here tonight till about 8 p.m. I understand he is on his way. He's coming here so we can talk further. I think he certainly would be a person that oversees projects. So unfortunately, and as I say, I'm not just making this up. I have the notes that I brought here, and as you can see, they're typed. I didn't just write them down.
in large print. case
In
you
large
forgot your
print, because
glasses.
sometimes my reading glasses are dirty.
No, I understand
So-
that the DPW is the head.
Oh, I know, but he'll have some answers
Yeah,
maybe.
he can't be at
He's
all
not the
of
only
these,
one,
no.
no.
Right, he has to delegate that work to somebody, and, we have an engineering department who has workers. so-
Yep.
And I think it'd be a good idea, or, maybe for the council, so that we could share with the residents, what do the workers do on a day-to-day, right? Because we don't do the day-to-day operations. So, we may have in our mind what we think the day-to-day would look like or should look like. Residents obviously have their own view. So it's helpful to know what the day-to-day looks like for, say, the Parks Division and what their groups are broken into. And, again, I don't care what anybody says. They're definitely understaffed. 15 years ago, it was double how many people are in that department now. So obviously the magnitude of work that the city wants to do, that the council approves, that the administration has vision for, cannot get done with the amount of staff that we have. It just can't. It's not realistic. And then the more projects we add, the larger the pile, the less that gets done. So you have a little bit here, a little bit there, and nothing gets done anywhere. And, and I think that's what frustrates at least myself and then the residents and staff.
Councilman, you want to add?
Councilwoman Susie, brings up a great point. And I had this conversation back with the mayor in December of 2022, right after we got elected and before we were getting inaugurated, about all the projects. So, in not saying that the private sector does everything right, but tonight was the first time that we had a contractor, engineer, site manager come in and actually walked us through the steps that you would do in the private sector about the projects. So first of all, hats off to him and hats off to the police department, where he talked about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. If we all remember that, right? And that's the way things are supposed to happen in the private sector. And then in other cities, in other states, there's requirements. Just like when you go out to a bid, you hold people accountable. So in the private sector, if you start a project, there's a start date, there's the budget. And if it's multiple phases, phase 1 is completed by A. And it can be it can be projects on all sorts of ends, as far as sales, marketing, buildings, etc. It is step 1, phase 1 is completed here, phase 2 is completed here, phase 3 in the final completion date. And that's the way we need to, when we do these resolutions from now on, we need to have a start date when it's going to, and all these projects. start, if it's 5 phases, it's 5 phases. If it's 20, it's 20, but we list them out. I know there's a former governor who's not the governor anymore, but to her credit, when road work started, if we all remember right, the signs all had phase start date, phase 1 completed date on time. We all got to be and I'm not just throwing it on the mayor's office. We as a body need to be accountable too. If we're allocating this money, we have to follow up ourselves. This isn't me going after, because right now I can hear it out there. Oh, they're going after the mayor. No, I'm not going after the mayor. I'm talking about making the city a better place, to go from good to great. And we got to do that. Planning department, everybody. We just can't be running. We can't have 100 projects going on, to the point as far as having and there should be a point person, just like in the project manager, point person on every project, just like it is in the private sector. That's my preaching for tonight on these projects.
And I think those are good points. You can't argue with, but to be fair, there is a process. Sometimes when you do the resolution to hire a company, now the first step is you sit down with that company and then you come up with that timetable. Right. You're not going to do it the night of our meeting. And no, I hear you.
I'm saying after everything's done.
Yeah, after the vote.
Company AB, they signed the contract.
Right.
This is what
But we've
want.
done that with Kent Field. We even had that meeting when they gave us those dates, 9 months. Then of course it got delayed for reasons, but we were told about them. Community center, other places. You're right. There is a process, but sometimes you can take on too much stuff and you got to just be a little less energetic. But Director, you've been standing there. Do you want to add something?
Thank you. I was just mainly wanted to tell you that Director Borges would be able to be here shortly to speak, and he arrived just around that time. But also just to reiterate and answer some of the questions that were brought up, or to let our residents know where the city stands. So yes, Council Vice President, the private sector does have project managers who follow, Ian and I are both educated in project management. So there's a system in place. However, we're not we don't have the same luxury of having a huge staff or huge salaries similar to the private sector. So we are somewhat limited. We have a number of projects. I know I stand before this body often during these council meetings to reiterate how hard our staff works. And there are crews out, and Director Borges can speak more to this, on a number of projects. I'm on the road with the mayor sometimes. The director's on the road with the mayor. Our building inspector's on the road with the mayor. We do have crews. There are superintendents who oversee projects. There are crews who are handling the multiple projects that some of you have been able to view as well. But specifically, Council Vice President, you had questions about Glen Lyon, so I don't want to go on. I'll have Dan come up to provide some of those answers. I was going to provide some additional answers in addition to the email that I sent, but I'll have Director Borges clarify some of the paving and the contract work that's been done in-house and that's being contracted.
Well, one thing, Mr. President, before, I just want a clarification. I'm speaking for myself, but I think I can speak to the remaining 4 of you people up here. No one is questioning the work ethic of anybody that works for the city. So that was a semi-implied, so I just want to put that for the record. Thank you.
Yep, understood. And Director Borges, thank you for fitting. I know you had a tough schedule today, but we appreciate you getting here. Specifically, if you could address the concerns about that Council Vice President had about Glen Lyon. We can talk about other stuff as well, but can you update Glen Lyon, the walking path, all of that?
I was listening, excuse me, I was listening from home, so I did catch a little bit of it, but if there's anything that I missed, please let me know. Councilman Rigo, I think you mentioned that regards to issues with the patchwork that was done with the highway department.
We have a $97,000, we allocated $97,000 in May for Hartford paving to do, 74,000. So we have a resolution here. So I just want to know where this went, because obviously, and we met up there, correct?
We have,
Yeah, we met up there. All right, so,
I had a
I mean, we had the-
conversation
yeah,
with
with the
you.
patch, so.
And I had a conversation
Yeah,
with you
about the
regarding this
patchwork.
work.
Yeah, so this Hartford thing is basically out the window, right? They're
No,
not,
no, it hasn't been spent yet. There's an
no, I
open,
mean, it
there's an
hasn't,
open
but
PO.
Hartford's not coming.
All right, let's let
Yeah, Hartford's not.
Director answer.
No, but, and just to clarify, the work that was done by the highway department, regardless of whether we were overlaying these paths or not, had to occur in order to pave the paths appropriately. So to say that the work that was done by the highway department was a waste was not a waste.
I never said it was a waste. I just want to know where this money was. Again,
The money,
please don't put words in my mouth. It's the second time this has happened in here tonight that people are saying things. I did not say that their work was wasted. I'm asking where the money is.
said it was unnecessary. I was listening to the meeting. Regardless of which, the PO, there's an open PO for that money for Hartford paving. After the highway department conducted the work on the walking paths and made the patchwork, we determined that the condition of the path in all the other locations was in very good shape. So we are holding off on authorizing Hartford paving to move forward because we'd like to ensure that we have enough budget funds to resurface the basketball courts and the tennis courts, which are in much more dire need of resurfacing than the walking paths.
So out of the $513,000 that the previous council approved, where are we with Glen Line? That was the capital. This was passed. So where are we as far as the money that's left for Glen Line Field?
I'm not sure. You're stating that there's $500,000
Oh,
allocated.
it says here, what does this say here? It was 363,000.
My understanding is that there was $150,000 in capital, and this is, don't quote me on this because I don't have my budget in front of me. There was $150,000 in field lighting. Councilman Brito had originally allocated under the last council. That was since 50,000 of that was taken, which you had sponsored capital for Bourne Park.
But this is saying there's 300, and doesn't that say, Mr. President, it was 350 or
Yeah,
360?
there was an increase
Yeah.
of 363,000 to 513, which was an increase of 150 for the purpose of installing the ball field lighting. But then we all decided we didn't need that as much as the other projects, but the money was still,
Money's still there. That's.
so are we still working with this 500?
I'm not aware of $500,000. I'm only aware of like 200,000 for this project. So that's where I'm.
This goes back a couple councils.
This goes back to, this
It
is.
may have been amended, I don't.
This is October 4th, 2022. So it's you people, and basically a month later, it's lame duck. So there's nothing that I could find when I
Could I take
populate
a look
Glen
at that
Line. Yeah, go
resolution,
ahead.
please?
Yeah.
This is not the resolution, but it's a summary of the vote.
Summary of the vote, but there it is right there. This is what, on the 4th of October. You see even the line, it has the line that it was allocated to.
So I believe what this is referencing is that there's an increase in the capital fund, the Parks Capital Fund. The totality of the capital fund of 513,000. That's the total balance. And the increase is 150,000 for the playing lights, not 513. 513 is the balance of the entire cap. From reading this, is the balance of the entire capital account.
What page was that? I missed it.
50,000 was pulled out to go to Boyne.
Correct.
Okay.
As of maybe a year ago or
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
My understanding, without looking at budget numbers, I don't have them in front of me. There should be $250,000 allocated for park upgrades at Glen Lyon. Around 10,000 of that went to replacing a fence for two abutting neighbors. And some of that funding has been used to purchase the asphalt that was, that we use city staff to repair ahead of what we had intended on doing for the overlaying project of the walking paths. And then I want to say roughly $15,000 to $20,000 was spent on solar powered lighting, which the bases have been installed. We're hoping to install those light poles in the next week or two.
I just pulled this offline.
If you look at the, Councilman, if you look at the resolution, it's an increase 59840 capital parks from 363 to 513, an increase of 150,000. I do remember this because I was there. This is Councilperson Brito, for the purpose of installing field lighting at Glen Lyon Field. So the capital budget for the parks was overall for that year was $363,000. Council President Brito at that time requested an additional capital allocation, I believe, from unallocated capital of $150,000, increasing the total budget for the capital parks budget. So that was not all allocated to Glen Lyon Field. 150,000 was allocated.
And then we moved 50 out of it to go
Right.
on. So we're at 100,000.
Correct.
So I want to know where the 100,000 is right now, because obviously Hartford paving isn't happening right now. So
Right,
I want to
but-
see where we are.
I
That's
think you're
the
still
point.
confusing the two. There were two separate accounts for this project. There was one that was the Glen Lyon Park improvements,
Yep.
right? That was $100,000, either 100 or 150. I don't have it in front of me. The other 150 was allocated by Councilman Brito during the last council, which you then took 50,000 of that and reallocated it to Bourne Park.
It's 200.
So there's either 200 or 250. I don't quote me on the number without having it in front of me, but there's either 200 or 250 for improvements at Glen Lyon Park. Around 15,000 of that has been spent on lighting. 10,000 of that has been spent on replacing fencing for the two abutting neighbors. And there's currently 74,000 or whatever that total is for Hartford paving encumbered against Hartford paving, holding those funds to potentially resurface the walking paths. The intent of holding that, because we determined that the paths were in good shape after being paved, we felt as if we should, in order to make the money move, a little further, investigate resurfacing the tennis courts and basketball courts, installing new tennis court poles and netting, and install fencing along the perimeter of the tennis court, while also adding an additional pickleball court adjacent to the tennis courts. We're working on getting total funding or total budget numbers for that, so that if we do have enough funding, the intent would be to liquidate that PO and move forward with making those improvements, seeing that the path is already in very good shape as it stands. That was the intent. So that's the reason why the overlaying has not occurred, for that reason. We're trying to make these funds move, as far as we can, and make the most amount of improvements at this facility as we possibly can. Hopefully that answers your question.
And I think it's, as we mentioned earlier, changes happen as we go along. So it was determined that money could go further doing other things at the court. So I think what threw us was, this summary sheet. This is not the resolution. This is just a summary of the vote back then. Didn't say specifically that the 500 was the overall capital project. It made it look like it was all Glen Lyon, and that's what.
And the big picture too is it's 2 years now. And as the phone calls
Yeah.
we get, it's 2 years.
Yeah, people get
Now-
impatient, just like with Kentfield and
Now
others.
it's 2 years, and fall's coming, and we know construction slows down a little bit in the fall. So we're looking at 2.5 years maybe, or anything like that.
So as we sit here today, how is,
It's
it is frustrating, but
frustration to get the phone calls from the neighbors who thought when they saw this 2 years ago that there was going to be action.
I know it's frustrating. As we sit here tonight, what's the story with Glen Line going forward?
So I've been in contact with Pawtucket Hot Mix, who currently has the city's paving contract. They have the most favorable cost per square yard for pavement. So the intent is to have them provide us a price using their bid item. I'm also working on trying to finalize an RFP to go out to bid for citywide fence improvements so that we have fence improvements throughout the city, at multiple parks. So the intent would be to get a unit bid price for a contractor to do, 100 feet at Glen Lyon, 100 feet at Pierce Field. That way we have the ability to call a contractor, say, hey, I need 50 feet installed, at City Hall. So I'm working on trying to get that put out to bid. Hopefully within the next 3 weeks, we'll have some responses from contractors, but the hope is that we can actually get this paved. The basketball and the tennis court paved this paving season. That is the intent right now.
Thank you. Do you have a further, I think we cleared up some of things. The timetable will never make everybody happy. Just look at the good old bridge.
Yeah.
Councilman Fogarty.
Thanks, Dan, for coming out of your way and answering that.
And I just want to, I've been, since we took office, advocating that council president, council vice president have a weekly, bi-weekly meeting with the administration just to be aware of what's going on. So stuff like this is something over a cup of coffee. But we have zero communication between us and this administration. Can I just make that request again, that there's a way to set up two, president, vice president, find a time to meet with Patricia bi-weekly, whatever,
I'll even pay it because I know.
just to hear what's going on.
It does happen. It's not on a schedule every Monday or every.
But it'd be good that
Council VP and myself, we've been in talking about the plan and the timetable on the community center.
yeah, but
rec
how
center.
often? What about other things going on? in the
Well,
city?
and I'm not anyone's apologist, but the mayor has said his door is always open to any of us. I do call when I have a question. He calls me when there's a question. In fact, he has said to me, "Why don't you come in more often?" I said, "Yeah, I know, but
No,
we get things."
on that point, excuse me, on that point, if you remember right, let's see, it was April. It was the end of April, and it was Patricia, the city clerk, you and myself. We were up there before, just having a meeting and everything, and the mayor did come in and said we should meet like this, before when we do the planning for the docket. So, and we haven't done that on our end. Maybe we need to schedule the meeting with the chief of staff, like the last docket planning meeting, that we take an hour beforehand and we go do that.
Yeah, and generally, you and I come in, we meet with the clerk, the solicitor, chief of staff, others, and we go over the agenda. Sometimes, like this meeting, didn't seem to be overly onerous in terms of we were coming off a holiday weekend, end of summer. So we just kind of checked it by email and said, yeah, we'll go with the agenda as it is. So yeah, communication is always a two-way street and can always be built up again. But I will say, Councilman Fogarty and I are constantly at Kent Field looking at that project. The one Councilman Lawson came by one time. We do reach out, and we're walking a fine line of the new role of the city government, which is council not interfering with department heads and employees. But this isn't interfering. This is just asking questions.
Updates, yeah. it's
Right.
I mean, if
But I'm
something's
talking
going-
about out in the field. I've driven by projects too, and observe it. I'm not going to get out of my car and run over and say to the guys, hey, this should have been done 3 weeks ago. What's going on? You know, it doesn't work that way. I would call Dan and maybe ask him or the mayor directly. So it's a frustration of everyone in the public. Everyone wants their little neighborhood project done yesterday, and not that easy. Anybody's done renovation work in your home, you come up with some. Again, I'm not an apologist, and I agree. I've said before, I don't want to vote on any more major projects till we finish the bulk of what's going on in the city. Let's get the Hull Street playground area done. Let's get Kent Field done. Let's get the fields in Rumford done. Let's get the Crescent Park situation squared away. Let's get the rec center built. We've got enough big things on the plate. So I'm all for, we might have a great idea to come in with some new project or park, but let's put the brakes on a little bit and give the Department of Public Works some breathing room. What else can you add?
I was just going to offer, if you'd like to take a week off and spend your vacation with me for a week and run around the city, we can certainly do so. But I actually,
I'll call you.
I did want to address Councilwoman's.
Weeks, okay?
I'm sorry.
Give you a couple of weeks. That will work.
You probably need a few weeks to really get a good sense of what's going on. But to address Councilwoman Souza's question regarding project oversight. So we do obviously have a staff of 5 individuals in the engineering department who do oversee a large portion of our projects throughout the city. While they're not on site full time, they're, in between office duties, which is, answering not personnel, but resident, questions when they may come to the window, or they may be doing city survey. It might be, there's a lot of different, everyday tasks that they're doing on top of also overseeing a lot of these projects. And in the last 6 months or so, I've actually started overseeing some of these projects to try to help fill in some of the gaps where we unfortunately don't have staff to be able to oversee these on more of a full-time basis. But then there are projects that are a little more complex that we do hire engineering firms. There's a resolution before you tonight that is for PAR Engineering, who will do construction oversight of cleaning and lining project, or we'd hope to if it passes.
Do we want to move it up like Dan said?
But it
Sure.
will cover full-time resident inspection of those projects, which are high profile, very important projects that really can't afford to have something like a part-time staff. But we do staff all our projects throughout the city. While you may not see people out there, they are actively working with the contractors. They are addressing, issues with curb cuts for residents on Lyon Avenue who, at one point in time were grandfathered in and had some curb cuts on a property that we weren't aware of.
Yeah.
So there are issues that come across every single construction project. And they're just, unfortunately, sometimes they have to be dealt with in the field. They're not always, projects don't go smoothly. I'm not sure I've ever been on a single project that hasn't had some form of hiccup, whether it's,
Through the chair.
And before you go, 1 second, I would add this. This is probably not the budget year to do this, but I see layers of bureaucracies in other cities and towns of comparable size. I think you, as single DPW director, could easily have an assistant engineer that can go out to these multiple projects as a project manager. This is probably not the year to add jobs.
I mean, I'm working on some projects, aside from, the council approved quite some time ago for some GIS upgrades to the city's GIS systems, in all the free time I have. I'm working on upgrading the city's GIS, but also developing like a back end program that, many people, even out in the community, don't really understand that, we manage internally. But this program will ideally help us kind of streamline some of the processes that we have in day-to-day activities, logging work and doing things that people don't really know that we do. So there are some pieces of my job that I'm trying to, find some to try to fine tune and kind of change processes to make things a little more efficient and, save time. So
Sure. Councilman Fogarty, please.
No, that was going to be my point of action, actually saying to Dan that that infrastructure system is going to help a lot going forward. And I've seen a lot of the projects underway, and you're there a lot, and the staff's there. But I'm looking forward to the main roads being paved finally from edge to edge, the curbing, continuing that all the way Pawtucket Avenue from east to west, north to south on that. And you're doing a good job, and it takes time, and I realize it, and there is frustration. And I'm looking forward to them, not on the off subject, but those bus stops that are on the main roads that are decapitated that we need to repair or remove, because this family is walking everywhere now and biking. And a lot of walkers on Pawtucket Avenue that are in jeopardy of getting hurt. So I know you're aware of this, and we're in constant contact. I mean, see something, say something. I have no issues with the current form, and I appreciate your work.
and we are in constant contact with RIPTA. That is a major concern of ours. There's always shattered glass somewhere, a broken bench. My staff is actually out there sometimes removing benches that are unsafe. So we are reporting those to RIPTA. I know that they do have some plans to improve those at some point. I don't know what that timeline looks like. But just to kind of touch base on the road comment that you made there, once this cleaning and lining project is completed, we will see a significant number of more roads paved in the very near future, pending funding. But yes, we should see a significant number of more roads paved now that we're getting a lot of the utility work completed. So that's the main caveat with a lot of our paving work is we want to ensure that the underground utilities are in a position where they do not have to be touched for another 10, 15 years, so that we don't pave a road, and 2 months later or a few weeks later, we have a water main break, or we have, a gas leak or something that requires us to then cut into a road that, unfortunately, sometimes we do have to do that. So we try to avoid that at all costs.
And it does seem like Tucket Avenue is getting some attention from the state finally. I mean, from Ken Heights, I know we had Rhode Island Energy expanding gas pressure lines. So that area did get paved by the high school, looks all new paving. So we need it from Riverside to Rumford. We need Pawtucket Avenue fixed, and we can push the state as much as we can, but
Yeah, I mean, we will see Vets Parkway paved,
Yeah.
either this year or early next year. Willett Avenue is another road that will be paved.
South Broadway, Martin,
Taunton Avenue.
Lion,
The Taunton Avenue over here is
Newport Avenue.
all of them.
And City Hall is getting a facelift.
and this is exactly what we hear throughout the community wherever I go.
Yeah, so
And I'll mention, and they'll say, but I was on Martin Street today. And someone said to me, well, what about Martin Street? It's a big cut through from Pawtucket Avenue to South Broadway, and it's narrow. And there's a ton of not real potholes, but dips and things that I said, I know everyone.
Like the
And it's
miles that we've done.
cleaning and lining.
Yeah.
It's cleaning and lining work that needs to be completed. But that road, it already has funding allocated.
Right. It'll get done.
It will get done, but it will just-
While we're on this
About it.
topic, if there's no objection, then as Councilman Lawson suggested, and while Director is here on page 10, I believe it's number 2, we are recommending a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract amendment with Parry Corporation for construction services and contract administration for the water main cleaning and lining project and water meter replacement project. And again, this is a topic we've all been talking about, the water lines. And I believe the funding is with the infrastructure bank, and there is funding in place.
There is, yeah. So this work is in conjunction with the 2 contracts this council's already approved for meter replacement, which were the 2 larger contracts, as well as cleaning and lining contract, which should be coming before you in the next month or so. That project had to go back out to bid, change a little bit of the scope. But the services that you have in front of you are for resident inspection services for Par Corporation for both the meter replacement and the cleaning and lining project, which will be going out to bid. This money was budgeted as part of our Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank bond. So this is all under that umbrella. So it's being funded through that infrastructure bank bond that we're receiving right around $3 million in principal forgiveness.
I just have one question, and it kind of goes to what you were just alluding to about a bigger project having oversight because of the significance of it. In the contract or in the agreement, there's a section that states services not provided by PAR, which include the design and support of excavation, recommendations of handling hazard or non-hazardous materials, construction quality testing, and then work not specifically included in this contract. And it's amendment number 2. So who is going to be overseeing these 4 bullet points?
So that's just kind of standard contract language. The support of excavation is typically put on the contractor anytime they're doing any excavation work. So that wouldn't be the responsibility of the engineer. That's probably more like blanket contract language. What were the other ones? I'm sorry.
The handling and testing of hazardous or non-hazardous material.
Yeah, so that's again, it's all boilerplate.
So does that go on the contractor?
Correct. Yeah. So I mean, if they encountered hazardous material on site while excavating, something that might be unknown to us, I mean, regardless, it's going to be a change order.
Right.
Regardless of whether or not we wouldn't necessarily account for it. So if there was any testing requirements, we would likely have to hire a private testing company to do the material testing. So
Now, typically, do we do that or do we just kind of keep moving forward?
with contaminated materials,
Oh, we don't know that they're contaminated, right?
To report for DEM if we
Right.
come across contaminated material, the project has to stop and we have.
Do we test everything that,
No, they're not.
Okay.
They're not
okay,
tested.
that's what I'm saying, then it's not normally tested.
Not
So,
typically, unless
right.
there's some overwhelming reason to.
Right,
you know,
right.
Whether they
Okay.
are like, okay, this is contaminated. You know.
All right. That was my only question on that.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Is there a motion on this resolution?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that.
and that's through the city? Throughout the city? This project?
It's mainly actually within your ward.
Yeah, the oldest, right.
Work happening. Yeah.
Thank you.
We can provide you the list of streets when as
When
we
the
go
time,
forward.
yeah,
It
that would be
likely
great.
Won't start until the spring, just
Mm.
based on the way the bidding schedule is happening. But most of the work will probably occur in the spring.
In the spring of 25.
Yep. And it's not going to be large 200-300-foot sections of road being ripped apart.
Mhm.
It's going to be
Segmented.
smaller holes that so they can access 2 sections of pipe and clean in line.
Great. Thank you so much. And just, I guess, a follow-up question. Would it be the engineering company or the contractor that would notify your division and then subsequently residents that the work is being done within a 2-week? Because that's another thing that's been an issue with residents is not getting enough notice.
Yeah, it's typically put on the contractor. We'll require the contractor to do, door tags.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Appreciate your effort and time.
Have a good night.
Probably good idea not to go yet. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think we're,
Can I just make a motion to continue on to resolution number 3 so that Tracy can enjoy the
Yes.
rest of her evening?
yep. What page are we?
Page 10, number 3, Councilman Lawson.
So this is just for us to pick up the tab from the Live Nation Fund is what, 60, 70 grand that's just sitting there. The food and wine pairing is to raise money for the carousel. So if we could take on the expense of renting the tent and the incidentals around it, that means that all the money they raise goes right to the carousel. So I respectfully request that we pass this.
Is that a motion?
That is a
Is
motion.
there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Souza and Councilman Fogarty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
So that
Thank you.
event is this week
This Thursday night.
on Thursday night at the Carousel. If you have a ticket, you are welcome. If you do not, see you next year.
Or meet me by the back and we'll crash it.
I did not
Did-
hear that.
We're
You
Riverside.
can get in
say that.
behind where the band
Riverside.
is and the tent is. You could.
You ain't keeping us Riverside folk out. If there's food and wine,
Tracy, did you need to add anything about the event? You're welcome to. Okay, you're welcome.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
for all your
Thank
hard
you.
work and your staff's work and the commission's work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the agenda, please.
Number 7.
Page 8, is it?
Request for increased speed surveillance measures in Rumford between the hours of 4 to 6, Monday through Friday. Discuss Council Vice President Rego.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. President, as you were with me last week at the town hall meeting in Rumford, one of the concerns that the people asked for, and don't know how much possible it is, but I think it can happen, is they'd like to see a little bit more police presence in the neighborhoods. And as I said to them, that we've done it before. When first took office last February, they were down Avenue and Catlin Avenue, and it stopped people from speeding and going through stop signs. So I'm hoping that through the mayor's office, obviously with the police department, that there can be some presence in some of the cut-through roads, as you just alluded to earlier, like on Martin Street, and streets that came up were obviously Don Catlin, Greenwood, Ferris, Campbell Avenue, etc. So that's the concern, and I don't know, again, the police chief is here if he wants to talk about it. I don't know if he's ever thought about having placing cars and just leaving them there. That was talked about last week at the meeting, that just park police cars at near a stop sign, and that tends to be a deterrent. Thank you, Chief.
That unfortunately only works for a very short amount of time until people realize what's going on there. But the reason I am still here is I just had some questions about what you were referring to. So this is helpful. Don, Catlin, Greenwood, Ferris. At least Greenwood. I know we've done speed studies there in the past, which, I mean, it gives you unbiased data, and I'd be happy to share that again. I don't believe the data showed that there was a huge speed problem, at least on that road, but it's something that we can explore again. I like to try to have some sort of fact-based decision-making, so if we can do that, we can see, is there a problem? What time is the problem? Is there other things we can do besides holding a radar gun? Oftentimes I've worked with Director Borges about signage. Are there roadway impediments that are leading, maybe causing some of the traffic issues. So, but yeah, I mean, we can definitely take a look at it.
So unfortunately, I haven't been able to lift because of a stupid scenario that I was involved with a week ago Sunday. But so yes, I've been doing a little bit more walking. So yesterday I decided to walk from my house down to the end of Bishop and going over to Pleasant, and coming in from Massachusetts, there is one of the indicator signs. I think it's 35 miles an hour. Nobody was really obeying it. Maybe a couple of people were flying through.
You're referring to 152 coming in?
152 coming in from Mass, coming in that way.
Mhm.
And I'm not a quiet person, as you well know. I'm not afraid. So a couple of times I shouted out to cars, slow down, and all of a sudden I hit the brakes, I look over. And a couple of times they told me I was in Ward 1 because I got a number 1, but I knew, I think they were trying to tell me, I knew they were saying that, Councilman Ward 1, but I knew they were from Massachusetts. So I knew I got the salute. But so they do work, but they don't work. And as I said to them, if if it's determined like you did on Don, you brought the meter out there and it showed 300 cars a day, et cetera, going down there, and next minute you put the sign up and that tends to help and everything. But, Campbell Avenue is another issue. The cut through when they take the right turn coming in from Pawtucket, using it that way. So these are concerns that were raised at the meeting last week. And obviously it's myself being a representative of those people to pass them along.
Nope, thank you. That's why I'm here to.
Through the
find out
chair,
which street you
through the
refer-
chair.
Yes, Councilman.
I just wanted to mention a point of emphasis on a signage coming from Bradley, where you take the left off Veterans Parkway to come towards Merritt in the high school, where the split is coming from Riverside. You cannot get out of Merritt Road. It used to be a yield sign. Now it's just that you merge. So you merge going to this way, coming to the high school. That is a horrible sign because they used to yield and you had a shot to get out. When they come flying around from Bayview towards the East Providence High School, those two lanes, they don't allow us, neighbor, to get out. And the residents on Merritt, there's at least 20 of them that someone's going to get hurt.
I think, I don't know, and Dan, you may.
I don't want to bring it up now for the future, just because it was signage, and I asked the solicitor if I could just mention it. And there's more that on my mind, but it saves me a text or an
I
email.
think if I can remember back, that was changed because of, to keep that flow of traffic going and to avoid rear end collisions.
Oh.
You had cars having to stop, to merge with that traffic.
But there's not that many. I'm always walking that and I'm viewing that, and I actually spent hours looking at that situation. And there's not that many, from my opinion, that would cause that more so than getting out of Merritt, trying to avoid that.
Taking that left off of,
Just to go left or right, but it's a tough spot. So
We're trying to keep you in. We don't want you
No,
guys
we
leaving
can
Merritt.
Definitely, as Director Boyd said, have a discussion with DOT. They are about to pave that area.
I didn't want to bring it up tonight, but
On the SIP to be repaved, I don't know which year. I think it's like 2028. But that is something that we could potentially petition them to turn back to that, single lane so that it would avoid what you're, referring to.
it's not just that. It used to be a yield, right? So I'm coming from Bradley across that red light, and where they merged, that used to be a yield. So if we could just put it back to a yield before any paving, that would be an approach, or does it have to be through?
Well, I
state?
don't think that would necessarily be considered a yield anymore because there are two separate parallel lanes now. Unless we're talking about two different.
We have to be.
locations, but-
I'm at the red light where you leave Bradley's parking lot to come across Veterans Parkway going left to the high school, East Providence High School.
Right.
And I'm at the bend where you come around from Bayview, where they merge at Merritt.
Right. So they
So-
each have dedicated lanes. So there wouldn't necessarily, there may still be a yield sign there.
Nope, it's just an arrow that merges,
Right.
that,
Yeah.
that flows.
I think because they're two dedicated lanes, there
It's
technically
dangerous.
isn't a need for a
Okay.
yield sign. But I can certainly talk to the state and just voice your concern to them.
Yeah.
Hopefully they have a
I think it was better when it was a yield. Thank you.
Dan, before you leave, and Chief, question for both of you. At this meeting, the Pleasant Street meeting, a number of questions were brought up, and some of it goes throughout the city. It's an item that I know both of you are against. I'm kind of thinking it maybe could work because I'm seeing it now in other cities a lot, and that is some form of speed humps. South Main Street now has them as you're heading down South Main. I was going toward, heading toward the State House direction, and there were several. I had to go very slow, and going one afternoon over toward Rhode Island College, there's a big cut through street there, Cathedral Avenue. We've probably all been through that a lot, and they have 5 or 6 of them. I think over by PC, there are a lot of areas in the state now. I see them. I'm not married to the idea. I know that professionally, I guess the opinion is they're difficult, especially winter plowing. I look at our winters now, they're not as bad as they used to be, but it's still a concern. But
They do have the
the
removable.
removable ones, so
And just
I don't know.
remove
Is
them
it
when you-
still a problem from your point of view?
I'll voice my
Yeah, and please, I don't.
opinion. I mean, I don't like them for multiple reasons. I think we just with other municipalities I'm familiar with and other DPW directors that I'm close with. There's times where they are effective, and then there's other times where they're really not effective. You put in a speed bump, and you have neighbors who actually complain because vehicles will just travel at high rates of speed over them and create a lot more noise than what these neighbors were used to before. I think from a maintenance standpoint in the winters, they are, definitely a headache. You can't clean the roads as easily. You can actually damage equipment not knowing where the speed bumps are, So there is that portion. And then, I mean, I don't want to speak from a public safety standpoint, but if we start putting these throughout the city, I feel like, it may make police and fire more difficult.
That's true, but I know one other area that I've noticed they're prominently placed now is when you come off the Henderson Bridge going into Providence, right there on, is that South Angel, Waterman?
Those, I believe, have been
Angel, and that slows you right down.
Yeah, those are actually removed as of recent.
We've been removing them. I think in the winter, we could probably not use them because people, with the weather.
So I did forget to mention with the removable ones, we do have those, in parks that we do pull up, take in and out. The issue you have is they're great in parks and great in low speed scenarios, but the minute that you start having vehicles travel at high rates of speed over these removable speed bumps, they rip the asphalt apart and they actually,
Damage.
cause more damage to the road than they do good.
Yep.
I just caution, we're kind of far afield from the topic.
Yeah, let's get back on topic then. So the topic was basically the
Speeding.
Rumford speeding, and it's that meeting is what is before that meeting.
Let me
My eyes have
Ward
been opened
one.
about speeding.
To
It's
clarify, not Rumford, it's Ward 1.
Ward 1, yes. Anyway, okay, I think we've said our piece. Chief, do you need anything from us on that issue or?
Nope, I was just
Okay.
standing by.
Yep, I appreciate you staying on. Madam Clerk, the next item.
Request for traffic study for Rumford discussed. Council Vice President Rigo.
At this time, I'd like to have the clerk read the letter that I have proposed to send to the Honorable Mayor Roberto da Silva.
Looks long.
Dear Mayor Roberto da Silva, following a substantial community inquiry on July 26, 2024, when large cement barriers were placed at the intersection of Pleasant Street and Pawtucket Avenue, a Rumford Community Forum was hosted on August 28, 2024 for constituents to share their questions and concerns. As a result of this forum, the council is requesting the following. Councilman is requesting the following: a traffic study for Rumford area of East Providence, an increased police surveillance and radar between the hours of 4 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and an update on the permanent plan for the intersection of Pawtucket Avenue and Pleasant Street. In listening to constituents, it is clear that an unintended consequence of the placement of school safety zone cameras is a significant increase in the use of cut-through neighborhood streets to avoid penalties. In addition, the Washington Bridge failure has compounded the increase of traffic through Rumford by motorists heading north out of the city and increasing the use of access to the Henderson Bridge. The impact on local neighborhoods has reached a point of public safety concern in the neighborhoods surrounding these areas. We have received multiple requests for streets to have signage for one-ways, increased stop signs, additional speed detection signs, and the like. We believe due to these significant and ongoing changes that a traffic study to possibly modify the flow of traffic in this area is needed versus trying to band-aid the broader issue with requests with individual requests of one-way and no-through traffic signs. A traffic study would help identify potential transportation infrastructure problems. The study should focus on existing traffic patterns, including pedestrians, bikers, and motorists, crash history, and expected traffic growth, with recommendations on ways to improve traffic flow. Some key areas that constituents raised as areas of concern are Miller Street, Newman Street, Greenwood Ave, Pawtucket Avenue, Pleasant Street, Harmony Street, Catlin Avenue, and Don Avenue. Since it was reported that barriers were placed at the end of Pleasant Street due to motorists not obeying the one-way signs, it is clear that increased police presence is needed. At the forum, we heard several tales of people feeling unsafe walking for exercise, taking their children and/or pets for walks, specifically between the hours of 4 to 6, Monday through Friday. Constituents reported a notable increase in out-of-state license plates and larger sized vehicles through their neighborhood that were never designed to handle this type of traffic. For this reason, I'm requesting increased police speed patrols to deter speeding. Lastly, Chief of Staff Resendiz reported at that meeting that the barriers placed at the Pleasant Street in Pawtucket are a temporary measure, and that the Department of Transportation has been contacted by your administration to come up with a more permanent resolve to this dangerous intersection. We received many questions about process and protocol for addressing such matters. Can you please keep the City Council and local delegation updated as a permanent plan becomes available? The traffic study could be paid for by ARPA funds from the remainder of the money that was reported last month as being turned back from a project with Barrington. I appreciate the city's efforts to work for increased public safety and expedient attention to this matter. Sincerely, Vice President Frank Rigo.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. You'll forward that to the Honorable Roberto De Silva tomorrow?
Have you forwarded it yet, or that's, you will tomorrow, or the clerk will?
Forward it.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Next item.
An ordinance and amendment of Chapter 18 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled Vehicles and Traffic. Summary, subsection B of Section 18-269, stop sign Bishop Avenue northbound and southbound at Pavilion Avenue. Sponsored, Council Vice President Rigo.
This is second passage. Thank you for your passing the first passage at the last meeting.
You move second passage?
I move second.
Motion by Councilman Rigo, second passage. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Fogarty. All in favor?
Aye.
It's a public hearing.
Sorry, public hearing.
Public hearing.
There's no one here from.
We tried. Yeah, I don't see anyone, but we'll ask. Any of the department heads who are here, do you want to get up?
There are people here from the public.
Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Comments from the council? We have a motion and a second.
Again, this all ties to, it's a cut through as it was said before, traffic, and I'm not saying anything about the traffic light at St. Margaret's. It does deter traffic there, but it is, what it's done is it's forced traffic onto Bishop and Don and everywhere else on Whedon, Catlin, Bowen. So this is just a deterrent. I mean, Bishop is getting it worse because our wonderful neighbors to the Commonwealth just decide to use 152 as Seekonk Speedway. They still think they're in Seekonk. So the only way to do it is let them keep on hitting the brakes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that. 5-0. Next item.
Standing item, discuss the impact of Washington Bridge closure in the City of East Providence City Council.
Anybody have anything new or interesting to
You want to move up?
add?
I'm going to be voting against this gift card thing. Do you want to do it now? Because it's part of the bridge.
The bridge.
Sure, we can move it up.
So I think updates for the bridge closure, I mean, anybody who's watching the news, listening to the radio, you know that it is an ongoing saga. There DOT is closing lanes to inspect certain parts, you know, on the weekends, overnight. So it's just not getting any better. So we just, you know, from a council and, you know, a city elected official perspective, we know it's frustrating. We all are dealing with it. We all have to go over it in one direction or another. Please just be kind and patient. And, you know, it's going to be a long road ahead of us. So we just got to take it day by day and do the best that we can as we deal with the steps that we need to take, whatever they may be and however long, because we really just don't know. And hopefully people are working diligently in the back rooms, trying to come up with really good strategic plans for long term, not just for that bridge, but other potential avenues that, you know, this isn't the only artery connecting these two sides of the state.
What Councilwoman Souza just said was right about lanes being closed. And it's very concerning. And I'm just going to say the word mutual aid. I think you all know what I mean by that. It means if the lanes are closed and we have to call the city of Cranston, Providence, Warwick, it's going to take them a little longer to get here.
I just have a question. Have any of the council members been in contact with any of our state delegates on any updates? Because I know they have a board that's overseeing an oversight committee. Have they been contacting any of the council members, giving updates on any of those oversights? Because I haven't heard from anyone. There hasn't been any movement. Okay. So again, I would just, you know, encourage our state delegates to be, you know, it's really your role and responsibility as our state delegates to be working hard on behalf of the city and the residents to get information to us so that we can also distribute it to the residents and to know what's going on, just like we do here in the city for the residents. So I'm just putting a call out for action for our state delegates to, you know, keep us informed and put a little bit more fire under those departments that need it.
You know, the only thing I'd add to that is I have heard, you know, not as much lately because we're at a standstill. You know, the state is suing 12 or 13 companies. Obviously, we have to wait and see what that outcome is. But the East Bay legislators were meeting weekly, and then they turned it into monthly with the Department of Transportation, Director Alviti and his staff, and I think some of the governor's staff. So they did hold weekly meetings, and I know, I don't know that we got formal letters, but I would run into them, and they would constantly keep the issue in the forefront. And right now, the decision has been made to remove the old bridge, the bad bridge. We're being told, I guess, the end of February, was it? Someone said, or it's coming.
They got fencing up now. If you go down Waterfront Drive, the fencing's up, and they're starting to work now to bring the bridge down.
As far as a new bridge, we know that no one bid for it. So they're in the process now of asking everyone who was sent an RFQ why they didn't bid. There's not much we can do right now except wait. And some days I travel through, other days it looks bad and eventually moves through. It's not good, and it's not going to be good for another 4 years or so. We have to have some patience. So did you want to move that item up, Councilman?
Yeah.
It's related to the.
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion. We reject this.
Hang on.
Let's do the Chesapeake Bay Tunnel underneath there.
I
Yeah,
know.
tunnels could. Ted
Do
Williams.
the tunnel. And then somebody open up some boat rides across. No, let's work together on the bridge closure.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. We all know it. If we don't work together and have patience and some proper planning, like I left 2 hours early for my doctor's appointment only to find out it was reopened. That time it was reopened, so you can do better than I did that first time it was reopened. But, you know, we have to have patience. And who wants to stop building a bridge that's being sued? So those comments are being made. I just hope it gets done, safely for everybody and as quickly as they can. The stuff that goes around in the media and all the hating and negative, I'm not a fan of, but we're part of it. And we just have to get through it and trust our officials are going to make the right decision. That's what we have to do.
And again, I come back to speeding and driving habits. Now, those 3 lanes have been working, and it says 40 miles per hour, and it's only a short stretch. I come through that way a few times every other week or so, and those are narrow lanes, but they're working, and I try to stay around 40, 45 miles an hour, and cars are whizzing by me. You know they're doing 70 in those narrow lanes, and that's where you get the side scraping accidents. And, if people don't want to slow down, and as Councilman Fogarty says, have a little patience, you're only talking a fairly short stretch. Then it opens up and you can blast your 90 miles an hour. But let's use a little common sense, folks. Anything else on the bridge in particular? If not, on page 9, we will, without objection, under resolution letter C.
Number 1.
Yeah, so
Number 1 under letter C, Councilman Lawson.
we were allocated $1.2 million to benefit local businesses. This to me is ridiculous. Why are we taking $600,000 for a gift card program, giving $75,000 to a company to administer a gift card program? We can be doing up to $10,000 direct grants to every business affected. We have a business liaison in the planning department that could put together a grant application. And so I make a motion, we reject this.
Okay, there's a motion. Before we want to discuss it, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Souza. Open for this further discussion.
So, after reading through the resolution and then looking at the paperwork that we received regarding the company that was awarded the program takeover so that they could, and it looks like an amazing company who has done amazing work in other municipalities with this type of a program. I just have lingering questions as to how this whole process would work. I don't think that the way this resolution is written or the intent of it is actually going to benefit the peoples that it should. I mean, at the end of the day, every resident in the city and neighboring cities and towns have been affected. So to say that we're going to give it to a certain population of residents and not everybody in the city just doesn't make sense to me, first and foremost. Secondly, the understanding was always that the businesses throughout the city have had a huge financial impact. Now, have residents had financial impact? Absolutely. But the businesses are also the backbone of our city. They provide multiple things to the city that keep the city running. So, doing the numbers, it just didn't make sense to me the way it was going to be broken down and how we were dispersing that monies. To the councilman's point, we could take a list of all of our businesses in all categories across the city. And I know we did something with Restaurant Week and helped restaurants, but that was just the start of what we could do. And we know that there are so many offshooting branches of industries and trades and services, from healthcare to beauty to trades, that have been affected and that should be getting some type of compensation. And I'm for that type of a discussion and that type of resolve with this monies that was given to the city because of the Washington Bridge debacle.
Other comments from the council, or do you want to hear first from administration?
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Councilman
I'm waiting to hear.
Yeah.
I think it's a great program, but I'll wait to hear.
Thank you, Council President, and the rest of members of the council. So I do have Maggie here from YIFT who will be able to talk more about the actual process. But I just wanted to, and we have Director Brian's here as well, who could also speak about this. So what I can tell you is that there was the 1.2 million that was provided to the city. We've been in conversations with Commerce. Commerce also has their funds, as well as the city of Providence. So we've been collaborating with the city of Providence and Rhode Island Commerce on this program. The 600,000 would have been allocated to this program because the idea behind it is that I can tell you firsthand the number of people and calls we've received in our office from residents. And just to go back a minute, the areas that were most impacted were this would be on the census tract of low to moderate income. So this would actually be most of the residents in the city center that would be receiving these gift cards. And what we found is that these gift cards, and Maggie could speak more to this, is they're multipliers. So the residents suffered through this. We all did, right? Coming through the city. The residents suffered as well. We had received calls from folks who said that they had faced, increased costs. Some lost income due to having to miss work. We had families calling us saying that they had to call out of work because they didn't have anyone to watch their children because they had to cross the bridge. So they were impacted. Our residents were impacted. Yes, absolutely. Our businesses have been impacted. We've all done what we can to help our businesses. During a business meeting, I believe at the Riviera, we also discussed with businesses on this gift card program being a multiplier. If I have a $50 gift card and it has to be used for an East Providence business, I'm going to come in, I'm going to use that $50 gift card, but I'm going to spend more at all of our local restaurants, all of our local businesses. And it doesn't have to just be restaurants. This will impact other businesses throughout the city. And it has to be used in an East Providence business. And those who will receive these are the low to moderate income folks, because the reality is they suffered through all of this bridge impact as well. That's one piece. The other half of the 1.2 million is the city will receive the other 600,000 for direct grants that will be given to our local businesses. So they're going to benefit from the cards, and they're also going to benefit from direct grants. I do have some information that is technically under embargo, that there will be a process, and it's the same process. I will, well, technically, if I hand it to the council, is that okay to do? So, this will be a process that the businesses will go through. It's the same process that the Commerce Department, that Rhode Island Commerce will do, as well as the city of Providence. They will also be doing the same kind of application process. So there'll be criteria in place for these businesses to be able to receive all of these funds. I'll hand this over to you. More details on this program will be announced in the very near future. So just want to make you aware of that. In addition to that, businesses, I think Councilwoman, I don't know if it was that mentioned, why not give this to all the businesses? The reality is we have like 569, at last look, registered businesses. So they would have to go through the process, right? So, if there was a mom and pop shop or whatnot, and Keith will be able to talk a little bit more about the reason this will work, and I'll have Maggie come up as well.
But if we're looking at, 600,000 give at $50 gift cards gives $12,000, 12,000 families or individuals a card.
Households, yep.
Right. So there's 47,000+ residents.
But it's only going to be in the low to moderate income census.
But
that'll be more the center of the city, the most impacted by the bridge.
How are everybody in the city has been impacted?
Right.
It's not just the center of the city, and I know the center of the city is my ward, so it's not the whole city has been impacted, the whole city, and there's more than 12,000 households in the center of the city, and they've all been impacted, and people in Rumford have been impacted, people in Riverside have been impacted, so the center of the city is no more important than any other resident throughout the entire city, nor the businesses throughout the city. So again, I don't think this, how do you quantify who gets it? And I know you're saying low to medium. So where is that number?
They're in
Where
the-
is that list?
They're actually in the census tract, and Keith will be able to speak a little bit more about that. But the idea of it is, if you receive that card, you're going to go to a business throughout the city. You know,
Mhm.
you may go to a restaurant in Riverside, you might go to a restaurant here in the city center, and the idea is that multiplier effect of that card, what that's going
As a
to.
low,
So
as a
somebody-
low, medium, sorry, as somebody who receives it, you may not, that might be a great add-on, but you may not be able to spend more than what you have.
Right, that's true.
So
But
then it
it'll
is
still
not a
be an influx
multiplier.
of $50 to our local business. So
Right, which
businesses
would
are
be given
benefit.
to, could be given to anyone.
And the idea also, just so you're aware, and again, Maggie and Keith can speak to this, but the additional funding, so if a card isn't used, all those funds come back. Again, Maggie will speak to this, but those come back, and those funds will then be utilized and added to the 600,000 in direct spending grants to the businesses. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
So you're going, here's my issue with this program. You're segregating an area, you're saying center of the city. Unfortunately, a lot of those people who are in that category of low to low income, unfortunately, maybe some of them are on Social Security because of medical issues, mental issues, anything like that. And they're not working. But you tell me my constituents, 3 of them that live on North Broadway that are nursing aides that work for a home health care company, they couldn't work because the buses weren't running, but they live in 02916, so they don't qualify. You're telling me that's right? You're telling me that's right. Tell me that's right.
No, the idea is that this,
Again,
it's a two-part, it's a two-part
you shouldn't
program.
just throw it at 02915, making it a political issue on 5th Street, 5th Avenue, John Street, when there's hardworking people in 02916, 02914 that couldn't get around, and they don't qualify because they don't live in the census tract. You tell me that's fair. You tell me that's fair.
We're definitely,
You tell me that's fair.
Council Vice President, we're definitely,
please,
we're definitely,
Let
No,
her
I
answer.
ask a question. You tell me that's fair, and I'll move on.
I'm not giving my opinion to anything. What I'm saying is the idea behind this isn't just who receives it. The idea is that these cards will be spent back in the business. The money is going back into the business,
So that
into the hands
person
of our
in
local businesses.
02916, that nurse's aide, she wasn't going to spend, she won't spend the money. That's what you're saying, because she was a hardworking woman working for a,
If we
working for
could
a
give, Council
company.
Vice President, if we could, with all due respect, if we could give a card to every single person in the city and we had an endless pot of funds to do so, we would do that. But the idea, as this council and this body has said over and over again, is we need to support our businesses. This is a way for someone to go into that business.
Yeah, with direct grants, not picking it out,
We
and
are
not
also
using
doing
it,
direct
not
grants.
using it as a
600
political ploy.
600.
Okay, we will do this one at a time and a little more decorum. You
Through the
can,
chair. So
Yes,
in just hypothetically, we could then, if you're trying to reach and broaden and get more people to spend in businesses and it touch more families and households, you could take the 600,000 gift card program, and instead of it being $50, it could be $25 and that would double the amount of people who would then receive. Instead of 12,000, you could get 24,000 people.
I'm going
or
to
households.
I'm going to defer to
Because $25 might not get you a
Excuse me, through the chair. How is that fair for a business
Excuse me,
that
through the
people
chair.
may not want to
one
do?
second, Councilman,
I'm just-
Ridiculous.
let's please, I don't always require this, but let's try to go through the chair. Right now, Councilman Fogarty has the floor.
Well, Councilman Fogarty does not want to sit here and see these people berated or bashed. We either listen as respectful council people, or I will walk out the door.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking for. Is people, these folks are doing a job. We will vote up or down on this, but let's not cast aspersions.
So I'm just
So-
going to hand the portion again. I can't speak too much on the direct grant funds that will be given through an application progress in process, in collaboration with the state and the city of of Providence as well. So that way there aren't, applications in all at the state and the city. But I can give you this. More information is to come in a very short time, where it will explain everything for our local businesses, which all of those meetings we have been attending with businesses, they have asked for this. This is what they're getting. They will be able to receive funds, grants, based on those funds. But I'm going to turn the mic over to Director Brines, as well as Maggie, who will be able to answer some additional.
Thank you, Director Brines.
Sure. Just to answer the question about whether it could be spread throughout the city, in theory, it could, but you'd be running into an issue where people just aren't getting that much on the gift card. It might also raise the administrative fee that the company's charging, because they'd be dealing with a lot more households and a lot more gift cards. So we looked at it this way, as a way to sort of make the money, more meaningful to people. We focused on the low income census tracts because that's in general where people have the most need. And just to be clear, in focusing on the low income census tracts, we're not like income testing residents or anything like that. They don't have to prove their income. It's just all households in the low income census tract is what we would be doing here.
Okay, did you want to add something? I'm sorry, could you give us your name? It's Maggie, right?
Yeah, it's Maggie.
And you are with?
Gifty
Okay.
company. Yeah. Just want to say hello. I heard someone talking about Providence basketball tickets on the way in. Both my parents are PC grads. I go there all the time to games. So I think that's awesome. First things first that I want to talk about really quickly that I heard is the math in terms of administrative fees. The breakdown of all of this is $50 each for 8,071 cards at present. That was what was in the RFP that we applied for. At 8,071 cards times $50 each, that's $403,550 total in terms of the actual price for those cards. The material cost for the cards, the physical letters that would be mailed out to residents, and the postage and delivery is $6 per card, including the plastic and the mailing and postage and delivery. That comes out times 8,071 cards to $48,426, excuse me. Then signage is about $1,000 in terms of making these stores have something posted in their window or in the stores to indicate to residents that they are a member of this program and can accept these cards as a form of payment. The program management fee is $25,000. I heard $75,000 thrown out, and I just want to make clear that that's not at all what Yifty discussed charging. So the total for the payment with all of those summed would be $477,976. There's an optional second mailing for residents who don't use the activation, who don't activate within 2 weeks of receiving that card. So that would be an additional $12,000 cost, but that's optional. And again, that's not something we would have to do. In terms of for the businesses, why does this make sense? Why does this program make sense? Why does Yifty have so many of these programs across the US? And why do we not just give out grants instead? I think I heard around 465 businesses in East Providence right now thrown out, roughly.
About 570.
570, thank you. So, doing the math out, 1.2 mil divided by that amount, that's in the $2,000 range per business that they would be given in terms of a grant, which is, don't get me wrong, still a check to say, we're sorry for everything that you've been through the past 5 years. And then also with this bridge impact. With the program like this, though, there's a few data metrics that we often like to really point out. The first being that we see 51% of cardholders try a new business that they've never been to before, meaning we're bringing these businesses new shoppers, new residents. We're bringing them long-term customers that are going to repeat purchase in the long term. I think we heard the word long lasting and sustaining. We don't want to do something one time that doesn't have a lasting impact. So that's the first point that Yifty always kind of emphasizes. The second is that we do see a 30% overspend on average for these cards across programs. So where we're starting with $477,976, you multiply that out by around 1.3, you're going to get a number in the upper 500 range. That's sort of the impact that you would be able to have for these businesses spread out across them. So it's making the funds stretch as far as they can possibly go with this program for these businesses. In terms of logistically how this program works, I think you had asked that. So YIFT, we're operating in over 600 cities across the United States. We have over 17,000 businesses that accept these as a form of payment. The way that these programs work is there is an activation card for businesses that they have to run. It takes about 1 minute for them to do so, but that's how we ensure that only those businesses are able to accept these cards, not Amazon, not somebody 4 towns over, not Target, whomever you don't want to be accepting the card, right? We can check and approve each business that wants to participate. I'm based out of Westwood, Massachusetts, so part of my job would actually be helping with that process. So helping to get these businesses on board, making sure they understand what's going on. Co-Vice President Rigo, you mentioned wanting a project manager on every single one of these projects. That's my position here at this company. So I work with you guys, with the mayor's team. I work with the businesses and I work with the residents as the point of contact for making sure that this is a program that's working well and that they understand what's going on. So activation cards are run by these businesses in about a minute. The cards are mailed out to residents. It has an activation step that they need to fulfill. There's some requirements set forth by the city in terms of information that residents would need to fill out. That information has to be filled out in order for them to then have an activated functioning card for them to pay with. So the other thing I always like to point out, YIFT is the one who owns all of the risk, and we are the ones who are holding all of the liability, not the city. So we have all of the fraud detection implementations in place. We are the ones who hold all of that legality, which is part of what's made us a very successful program. So some of our programs have done upwards of $8 million in terms of redemption for their businesses. The multiplication effect and the long-term impact, that's what makes this program so successful. It's the fact that it's not a one-time thing, it's long-lasting.
So who produces the list of businesses, of eligible businesses? Do you get that from?
Yes, I get that from the mayor's office. My understanding based on the RFP is that it is supposed to be small businesses primarily that have been impacted, but that definition has to be defined by.
That isn't something that your company does?
No.
Who identifies or is it a general census tract? Is it everyone in that tract, or is it in John Doe, Jane Doe, Mary Doe? How does that work?
I'm sorry, in terms of the small
In
business.
terms of, the individuals who will get the cards.
So that's also the list that's provided
From
to
the
us by the
city.
city. So our understanding of it now is that it's the low to medium income households, the 8,071 of them that it sounds like are at the center.
So, and maybe Keith, you might want to answer this. So with all due respect to your company, why do we need a third party to do that if the information is coming from the city? If the city is identifying the businesses, city is identifying the persons, why do we need to take some of this money and expend it to a third party company?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a partnership with MasterCard. And so our partnership with MasterCard is what allows us to pay out these merchants in exact time as something is purchased. So for the city, for you guys to run a program, there would be no way for that to happen. You would hold all of that legality, all of that overhead. You would be in charge of all of the fraud detection, making sure that somebody doesn't steal all the cards and whatever else may happen with that. And in terms of payout for you guys, there would be no way for you to do immediate forms of payout. You guys would probably have something sitting on your books in terms of your businesses saying you owe me this much money for redemptions people have brought in for a certificate or whichever, which we see a lot with paper chamber bucks programs. It would be probably similar.
Can you clear up the numbers? Because I did have an early understanding of $60,000 or $70,000 for your fee, but what is your total fee?
For YIFT specifically, in terms of what we're charging for program management, it's $25,000.
So out of the 1.2 million, just 25?
600,000. 600,000 is the total.
No, but I mean to the company.
Only 600,000 was what the RFP was for. The other 600 is for the grants to be distributed
Right.
out to these businesses.
But your company fee is 20.
I don't think she's not involved with the grant
Oh.
portion only, right? You're just doing strictly the gift card portion, not the grant portion with the businesses.
Correct. And to clarify it, it looks like it was baked in the 48,426 for the material costs in terms of physical cards and the letters and everything else. That was what was baked into that 74 number for you before. So I wanted to break that out so you understood that Yifty
Okay.
wasn't just taking that all as profit. Some
Right.
of that was the mail.
Okay, I get it.
Is there a limited amount of stores that they can use it at, or is it anywhere in the city? Stop and shop to mom and pop?
That's completely defined by the city. We can work anywhere.
Got to be one of those affected stores, right?
What we were looking at was basically any business in the city, with the exception of like erotic retailers and gun stores. We toyed with the idea of just small businesses, but differentiating between small and, what's small, what's not small. What about franchise businesses? It seemed more straightforward to have it be any business in the city. It's within city limits, so you can't do it outside of the city, can't do it online. And we sort of wrestled with the fact, like, what about like Stop and Shop? People will use it at a place like Stop and Shop, and came to the conclusion, well, maybe that's okay if it helps residents in the city meet their needs with this. So for that reason, we didn't really stick with just small businesses, because it might take months of debate to figure out just what qualifies as a small versus a not small business.
And that just raises the point, if you're in that census tract, and God forbid, hopefully nobody ever has to be there, and I wish there was nobody in that census tract, but the small business, the Saks Pizza, All Seasons Cafe, that's not where the money's going to be spent. And God bless these people. They're going to have an extra $50 to go to Stop and Shop. So who benefits? Corporate America. I will bet you, well, I just paid for my wine ticket. But I will bet you, I'll bet you a dinner that 90% of the people that will get the tickets will use them either at Shaw's or Stop and Shop. And that's great because they're putting food on their table, but it's not going to benefit the small places. If you need to put food, if you gave me an extra $50 to put food on the table, I'm going to go to Aldi's, or I'm going to go to Stop and Shop, or I'm going to go to Savers. I'm going to Save a Lot or somewhere. I'm going to put the money. You're not going to use that as, you're not going to go more than likely to some of the smaller businesses.
Council President,
Yes, please.
I'm just doing some little research about on the census tract. It's a tract, and it's determined by 51% of the people in that tract qualify, but there could be, that's 49% who don't qualify. So it's not all low, it's a tract because more than 51% of the people meet the income criteria of that tract, but it's not uniform. Like obviously people are dispersed throughout, so there might be a high income person there. So, but they have to identify a tract to give this tract, and that's how that's, I guess, the easiest way they've figured to do it. So I just wanted to clarify that from the U.S. Census, and that's determined by the U.S. Census, not by the city.
Okay.
I'd feel more comfortable if it was actually going to benefit the small businesses here. And again, if you're in that income range, you're going to spend the money at those 4 places I talked about, or at Family Dollar, Corporate America, Dollar General, or whichever ones they are. And I don't blame those people. What they need to survive. But they're not going to go and spend their money at one of the pizzas. They're not going to go down to Stevie D's. They're not going to go, buy a burger. They're not going to go to the local. And they're not going to go to a lot of people impacted. Yeah, they were impacted, but so we're just helping them, but we're not really, it's not going to go to the businesses that were impacted.
So similar question, similar to say ARPA and other things. Are there restrictions that come with this program? Because that 1.2 million at our
Funds shall be
discretion?
used to provide direct grants or other such forms of assistance for these businesses.
And we were working with Commerce on this to make sure that this program fits within the language of the grant we're getting. And we do have assurances from them that we have a wide range of flexibility with how we help local businesses. So that's why we were looking at the direct payments to businesses, and we were also looking at this as a way to help residents in the city while helping the businesses at the same
So
time.
either way is acceptable.
Right, right.
Okay. Other discussions?
Through the chair.
Yes.
I look at that as a win-win myself, is why I promoted it. Number one. Number two, talking of businesses, small businesses, help, relief, that goes to the federal, state, our local state government to help these businesses with their fees, their fines, any late fees, any penalties, sales tax may be waived for a month, something to put direct impact into the business like you're talking. That should come from another level. This program is designed to help with criteria. I think it's a great program, and it moves the economy and helps people survive. Thank you.
Other comments from the council? Anyone from the administration need to add something that has not been addressed?
Just, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the additional funds, again, we have assurances from YIFT that those cards, there's a way to track if they're not used, the funds will come back to the city, and those funds will then be placed back into that additional 600,000 that are direct grants to the
Is
businesses.
there an expiration date?
90 days. 60 days on the,
You have to use the card by 60 days.
That forces them to utilize it, and then it gives us a time to be able to recoup those funds and then place it back into that $600,000 direct grant pile that would go to all eligible businesses through the application process.
YIFT also sends out reminders to residents who hold those cards within that time period to try to get that redemption rate higher and to remind them to use those cards before they expire as well. So we're pushing for them to really utilize those before they're up.
the last thing I
Yes.
just want to add again, I'm not, there is a way, if they're concerned about like, the stop and shops, the city could exclude, certain criteria, like, Target or something like that. They could exclude those businesses if you wanted to. That's all something that would come through the administrator.
I just have a question on the option of notifying cardholders. So within 2 weeks, if they haven't activated it, they would be notified. Would they be notified every 2 weeks until the 60 days is up, or just a one-time notification to remind them, you haven't used the card, and then after the 60 days, it's just null and void?
So what you're referencing is, I believe, the $12,000 secondary reminder that I had talked about. So that's a secondary mailing that could go out to addresses who have not come forward as registered with their card that was delivered to their address. So that would be a one-time mailing. In terms of repeat reminders, that would be for people who did activate in that 60 days to try to get them to redeem the card before they expire following the end of the 60 days.
Oh, all right, so they've activated the card but haven't fully used the card or haven't used it at all?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Just to be clear, we did not bid. That's not part of the bid package, however. That was an add-on that the city chose not to put on.
Right.
Because of I believe because of the cost.
I mean, I'd like to know more information from the city on what the businesses are, what the plan is in terms of the listings before I would be okay with voting to move forward with this. Right now, it's really still conceptual, and I would need more concrete information from our city departments before I would be able to move forward.
I just echo those sentiments down here.
Because I do think we do need to address this. I think everybody has been, I don't think one person more than another. We've all been affected. But I need to see more of a concrete plan or list instead of just voting blindly and then just letting it happen and then never getting any idea of where it was sent, if it was sent across the city to different people in different tracks, what businesses were involved or not involved, and what that process is. Because what happens is things get approved, and then in the latter is when businesses reach out and they're like, there was red tape, I wasn't aware, nobody notified me, what do I need to do to get on board? So I'd rather have the full plan and scope before that I make a vote on moving forward with this.
And I echo everything she says. And I come from a family that was taught, and we continue to do, to help your fellow man. But so I'm torn. I'm really torn. This is a humanity project to help your fellow man. The thing that I'm afraid of, this is not to be a political toy. This is to help our fellow man. There should be nothing about politics in this. As Councilwoman Souza said, more information, and that these people know we're there to help them, and it doesn't become a political circus. I might support it. But until then, I'd like to table the motion to get more. I mean, I know there's a motion already on the floor, but I don't like some of the way things were presented. And I apologize, but I had people crying during that whole time, and it struck me that poor woman waited 2 hours for 3 straight days to go to work, to get a bus, and she couldn't work. And the person that she was supposed to be taking care of couldn't eat and couldn't eat, can figure out the rest. And it just struck me. And this is a humanitarian project. This is not political. If we make it political, Frank J. Rigo says no. But if we make it a humanitarian project, Frank J. Rigo will say yes. So I need to get more information. Thank you.
So is there an appetite for us to wait a couple weeks and
No,
more
my
information?
motion is to reject it. This money needs to be direct grants to businesses. Don't say this city's business friendly when we have the opportunity to give them money that they lost back in December in the form of a direct grant. So my motion, I'm keeping it that we reject this.
Any other thoughts on getting more information, or do we just go ahead and vote on the motion on the floor?
For it, so I already stood my position.
We should just take a roll.
So before we do have the motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. So, I'm also, to use the word of Council Vice President, torn. I think this could help a lot of people, but I'm not sure that it's going to reach out to enough people. I'm concerned that the administrative costs are not. I have a problem with the administrative costs, whereas we could take, and it's not staggering. It sounds like, however, the city is providing most of the data. Now, I know there's the issue of getting charge cards put together, gift cards put together, and there's a lot of fraud involved with that. So maybe we shouldn't even deal with it and just take $1,200,000. The city is telling me that you can identify the businesses most affected by this. And what they've all said to us is, the bottom line is they've lost money. So have a lot of people, but we could never pay people for all their aggravation and people who couldn't get to their jobs. And there's no way we as a city can can solve that problem. So that's why I would support the motion to reject. But in any event, unless there are other comments, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Madam Clerk, to call the roll.
Councilman Fogarty,
Nay.
Councilman Lawson,
I'm standing with local business. Aye.
Council Vice President Rigo,
Aye.
Councilwoman Sousa,
Aye.
Council President Rodrick.
Aye, so the motion passes 4-1 with good intention on all sides, and we move forward. Thank you all.
Thank you.
If there's an amended type of different kind of plan down the road, we'll look at that. Next item on the agenda?
Are we going back to mayor communications or? do you
Yes,
want me
right back
move
to where
forward
we,
with the ordinance? Okay.
No, let's go back to where we were.
Appointment not requiring council confirmation, Jennifer Tierney, Tree Commission reappointment, and Carol Our Tree Commission reappointment.
Do you want us to accept as read? Yeah,
Is that
I make a
not-
motion
yeah,
to accept the communications as read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next.
City Council discuss, was that all communications or am I going through?
Yeah.
Yeah, follow right through items for announcement, discussion.
So now we're on B.
We just voted to accept.
We accepted all those. So the
Item 2.
school committee liaison, is that next?
City Council discuss East Providence School Department FY25 budget and capital needs discussion. Councilman Lawson.
All right. So because we're getting the budget later than we anticipated, I just want to put out that the school committee, they had a tough year and they had to cut 16 positions out of their budget. And we're talking teachers, we're talking social work, so the state aid this year is a decrease of $168,408. It's a problem because apparently we are making more money in the city of East Providence, so it affects the funding formula. So the schools are going to request $57,203,620. I am going to advocate that we allow that to stay in the budget and not ask them to cut it. Their overall budget is 99 million. So with state aid, we would be kicking in the 57. I will be advocating that that stays in. There's a line item too. We charge them $100,000 for trash removal. If we can move that line item over to the city side, there's at least one teacher that we could put back in their budget. It's just an accounting thing, and I understand that you want to line things up, but the to me, $100,000 for trash removal, we could cover that on this side and let them put back one of these 16 positions that were cut.
So that monies would come out of the city side budget.
The 100K.
Yeah, because it goes to the
Because we
cash
pay,
collection
we
company.
pay collection on the city side. Why not just add in the
Add
school
another 100,000 to the city's budget. under the-
or to our line item?
Right.
I don't know if it's actually 100,000 to pick up their trash. We'd have to ask Miga, but
I just add that I think, again, this is my experience as a former council person. The reason why they keep that amount on the school side is because they get reimbursement from the state. It goes part of the state aid. In other words, if you take that out, they lose some reimbursement. In other words, it helps them get a higher reimbursement from the state. That's how it was when I was on the council. I don't know.
okay, I can look into that.
So how does, where did I hear that they received more money this year for
Nope.
budget, that the current General Assembly passed, that our delegates fought for more money and they gave us, our schools, more money?
So the governor originally was going to cut over $1 million out of our budget. They fought that, so the cut ended up only being $168,408.
Yeah, the Department of Education had recommended to the governor, who forwarded it as a school department cut, but then that the entire legislature rescinded that. So they got everything but the, was it 168 or
Yep.
whatever?
168,000.
Yeah.
Right. So
So they
even with,
essentially got what they asked for.
right, with, well, 168, that's a couple teachers, you know, it's still a cut. So their request of 57,203,600 out of our overall budget, I think it's time to prioritize the school. They also, some of the capital repairs that they could use some help with. The top priority is the energy management systems in the building that basically monitor the heat, the AC and everything. They're looking for some help with that to update that system. Those that have been in the building, they could definitely use some updates like that.
Is that citywide, Councilman? Or is there certain schools?
No, I think that is, I can get that, but I believe that's for the entire system.
Okay.
Yeah. Elementary school, the intercom systems to be able to communicate from the administrative office, that's something they could use help with. The univents, those are the air units in the classrooms. I requested that the administration see if opera funding could be used to cover that. But that is something that's needed. And the biggest one, Oldham, this is where our tiny townies are, our preschool, they need a roof. They've been patching the roof. And to me, it's unconscionable that we would not put a roof on the building that houses pre-K. So just wanted to put this in front of, and also probably not for this budget, but the paving of the school playgrounds and the parking lots, maybe in the next contract with the road paving with the asphalt and stuff, we could see if that could be included. But, you know, our schools, they need attention. We've had a couple years of, we've been doing great the last few years. I'm not saying that, but the couple years of when the budget was flatlined, we got to kind of play catch up. And I think it's very appropriate that if we really want to be family friendly, we invest in our schools. So that is my pitch. I will be advocating hard that they keep that 57 million request and it not be cut. And you all saw the budget that they presented. There's nothing I didn't see anything onerous in there. It's just the cost of public education.
And the 57 million, is that including the cuts for the 16 positions? Okay.
No.
So, yeah.
And so that's the most we can give them because by law, they can only ask for, was it 4% or whatever that. So they're asking for the max amount that they can.
Mhm.
And even with that, they still had to cut out 16 positions to make it work. And we know these kids, they need teachers. They need the social support, you know, social work and stuff. So to me, a budget's nothing but a set of priorities. And I would really like to see if we could prioritize the schools. We've been doing, as you saw, we just put 3 million into the police station. We've been buying fire trucks, DPW trucks. We've been doing a great job of funding city side stuff. I would just like to see if maybe this year we could give some love to the school. You know, every year there's things that are needed. But if we give them love next year, I mean, this year, maybe next year, the needs aren't as great. So
No,
that is my pitch.
I agree. I think, you know, it's unfortunate that year after year, more important and essential positions are cut throughout our schools. Obviously, this body doesn't have any say on how the budget on the school side is allocated and what they do with their funds. But I'm trusting that, you know, between the school committee and the administration on the school side, that they're making the best decisions for the children in the school system. I can say that I have not seen on the city side any positions cut. If anything, we're trying to fund positions that aren't being filled. That's the problem on our side. We're putting money into departments that they're not hiring positions,
Right.
Filling the positions. And on the school side, they're having to eliminate and restructure their schools. So there's definitely an unbalance going on in the city.
Well, that's my spiel. The budget, I think the 17th we were told. So that's like right at the 45 day. So we're not going to have a lot of time for like the department heads and the mayor to come forward. So.
In the budget process, we'll have the superintendent of schools, chair of the school committee, and
Are we going to have time for that?
answer questions if we want them to. They'll have to
Okay.
come in at one of those meetings.
So we need, can we get some clarification here? Now, we originally had a schedule based off of what happened last year when we received the budget on the 20th of August and we had the dates and everything. So we have, the mayor has 10 days, 15 days to veto our budget. So we got to work backwards. That's why I'm asking these questions here now with the scheduling situation. So he has 15 days or 10 days. So
I take a little different position than the assistant solicitor because he wanted you to pass the budget at least 10 days before the end of the fiscal year. And that's why he backed it up 10 days. I believe that you could, as long as you pass the budget by the end of the fiscal year, and if the mayor were to veto it 10 days after that, you'd still have an opportunity to override that veto. It's a little, I was hoping that was something was going to clarify with the charter amendments, but I take a more liberal position about how much time you can have to pass the budget. But if you want to follow the old process, that's
no,
fine too.
I just want to follow the process that the
If you want to follow the
charter
process that you
says
did
and
last
that,
year.
that a judge would say we're supposed
Well,
to follow.
I could never say what a
No,
judge would say.
Exactly. We've been through this before. So I'm just trying to back us.
But I think
I'm
the
trying-
safest way to do it is the way you've done it, even in build in the 10-day veto period. So that gives you 10 days from the 31st, which would be the 21st. The budget has to be passed by the 21st of October.
So-
And again, these, I got to,
Well, yeah.
off the top of my head,
Well,
I'll
that's
give you
what I'm saying. So now we're looking at the 21st. So we're talking the 1st, 8th, 15th, 20. So I'm just looking
10
at
days,
dates
it's
and
10
then
business days, isn't it?
That's 10 calendar.
it's 10
10
calendar days.
Okay.
So then I'm looking at the advertising. So if we were to pass it on the 21st,
Yep.
if we were to pass the budget on October 21st,
Yep.
that's 10 days, right, before to go there, right? We need to advertise that 5 days in advance, we have to,
Oh, before the final.
because now we're talking about the advertising. That's what I'm trying to back in, the advertising and everything. So right now, what's it, the 4th, the
This is the
11th?
annual calendar. This is not the timeline for the budget. Yeah, I'm sorry.
October 21st is a Monday.
Depends. The advertisement is
It's 5
when
days.
when you get the budget. Again, I don't have the charter in front of me. When you get the budget, you're supposed to schedule a public hearing on the mayor's budget. After the mayor's budget is presented and a public hearing is had, then you have, and I believe it's a period of time to do your own changes, and those have to be advertised. So as soon as you get the budget, you're supposed to set a public hearing on his budget. As the result of that public hearing, then you're allowed to make changes and whatnot.
So that's my point. So we advertise, if we make changes, is it 5 days that they're going to be advertised
I mean,
for?
look, I don't remember off the top of my head.
And while we're looking that up, can we also agree that the capital projects part of the budget can come later? That doesn't have to be correct, there's no rush to the process.
That can be done after the
That can be done after
part of the budget.
right, it's not part of the budget, so.
The total amount of capital, has to be in the budget. The
Correct.
allocation can come at a later date.
Right.
Correct.
And that's what takes the time, everybody looking at the individual.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, this is section 5-11. So after the conclusion of the public hearing, the council may insert new items or may increase or decrease the items of the budget, except for certain categories. The council may not vary the titles, descriptions before inserting any additional items or increasing any items of appropriation, it must cause to be published a notice setting forth the nature of the proposed increases and fixing a place and time not later than 5 days after publication at which the council will hold a public hearing on that therein. So you need 5 days. So you get the mayor's budget, you have a public hearing on that. If you want to add anything to that budget,
Or subtract,
it doesn't say subtract, it says add.
just add. But if we start moving.
You're right, you're
things
moving around, everything becomes an ad, right?
That's what I mean, yeah.
So you got to, once you decide that, what you want to add, then that has to be advertised for 5 days. And then you have a public hearing on those additions.
All right, so if we were to add, subtract on the first, we get the budget now on the 17th, and we have a meeting, and we had a workshop scheduled for the 24th.
Can I correct something from you? I did misspeak. The budget shall be finally adopted not later than 7 days before the end of the current fiscal year. So you need to pass the budget before 7 days before the end of the fiscal year. Not, I thought it was 10 days, it's 7.
So, yeah,
Correct.
so we got till the 24th of October.
And I think
Well-
you build in, and the reason why we built in the 3 days is because then you get to the 10 days for the veto. So that's why
Yeah.
we get the 10.
So if we were to hold the 17th, 24th, and then we come back and we hold out the first public hearing on the 1st
October?
October,
Oh, the public hearing, yeah.
public hearing, we chop or move, however we want to call it, we maneuver around. We advertise it 5 days and we come back on the 8th. And if there's any issues there again, we got to re-advertise what we moved around. So that would put us at the 15th. So we would adopt it on then we could adopt it on the 15th. I mean, the 22nd is putting us, 22nd would be putting us close to the,
It still gives
to the end
us
zone.
7 days.
It gives us 7 days, so
It's calendar days.
it's count, yeah. So you're saying we can go to the 22nd?
The 21st, I think, would be the last day that we could officially
saying
vote
10.
for final passage on the budget.
Well, he just said 7 days, right?
It has to be passed 7 days before the end of the fiscal year.
Right,
So
but
October,
the mayor,
yeah.
but he has 10 veto days too.
Yeah, so where does that come in? We have
Yeah.
to pass it, but
Yeah, but we can call a special meeting to vote
Yeah.
on a veto.
Yeah,
I'm not concerned because
Right.
even if it's 2 days past November 1st, we could still, it's not gonna, like the city's not gonna not pay its bills
right, right.
for those 2 days.
No.
But I agree, we should have it all wrapped up by November 1,
say, yeah.
including the opportunity to veto.
I'll get you a timeline when I get these numbers, but you can obviously schedule hearings with 48 hours notice. It doesn't have to, you have to, there's certain public hearings, but you can meet every week if you wanted to.
We can, yeah, for the workshops,
Right.
48 hours, but my concern is the posting, the advertising posting. That's what we have to be in.
Right, I think the week of the 13th to the 19th would be the last week that we could make any ups, right? Because when you make an up, then you have to
Watch,
repost.
yeah.
If you decrease anything, there's no advertisement that's necessary. So if there's any increases, they should be made at the beginning of the budget and not the latter.
So if we receive the budget on the 17th, we have 7 days to hold a public hearing on that budget. And then after that, we can do our changes and stuff. But then there has to be another public hearing after that.
For final passage.
And those have to be advertised, was it 48 hours?
No, 5 days.
5 days, so,
There are changes, like ups,
Ups.
If we're going to
or
add.
any
to anything.
increases
right,
that change.
which
the
there
overall
usually always
number.
is, yeah.
Right, but it wouldn't be increases for line items. It would be increases to the total budget.
Which is dictated by the line item changes. So if you wanted to add money to something and it goes
As
up,
long as it didn't change the end number in that department. So if you wanted to move around or department to department,
right,
as long as it didn't change. Yeah.
Yep.
And remember the
If
clock.
you get the budget on the 17th,
Yep.
you can I think which is a Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
We could hold a public hearing date on the paper and just put it 7 days from then, like we've done in the past.
Yeah. We already have it tentatively scheduled for the 24th.
So assuming that you could get it in for the 19th, like an ad, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So we just got to see if the
24th, you
administration
could
is
have
going to
your
be
public
ready.
hearing on the 24th on the mayor's budget.
That's what we had it tentatively scheduled, a workshop on that day.
Well, it's a public hearing. Like,
Public hearing,
and
yeah.
then you can have workshops after that as much as you want. Up until the
But the workshops aren't public hearings,
correct. Workshops are
so they don't have to be advertised.
correct.
So, but then when we do the ups,
Yep. The ups need 5 days.
so so we
You can do
need
the
a-
up, you need the, excuse me, you could do the ups, but then they don't become final until they're published. So they're saying, these are the ups we want to do. They got to be advertised for 5 days. You have a public hearing on your ups.
Right.
And then after that, then you're all set.
So the ups, we do the ups on Tuesday, the 8th. They go into the paper on Thursday, the 10th, which would mean we would have a meeting on the 15th of October.
Or, 15th would be the earliest.
15th would be the
Again, I'll
earliest.
look at these
Yeah.
dates a little more carefully. But
So we do the final scenario there. We're almost, then we got to re-advertise if we do some ups again on the 15th. Now we're
The
at
21st is the last.
So what, being the 21st being the last day,
Which is a
see,
Monday.
we run into the predicament now of like Councilwoman Souza says, Monday the 21st, but the predicament we run into is that the paper or record doesn't click until the Thursday.
Well, we could always solve that by going to the journal, right? That's the other issue. It's more expensive, but
We have it.
we've done that in the past too to meet these deadlines.
But
Deadlines-
we shouldn't need these. I'm saying if we do it this way. So, so we got to look to wrap everything up by the 15th.
Right. Worst case scenario, we still have the 21st.
Yeah. So,
It's a good target.
yeah, we gotta get the budget. I mean, 17th, it has to be in our hands.
You could get it earlier too.
No, I'm just saying the latest is 17th.
I don't know if I'm not involved
Oh,
in the
no, I'm
budget
just
process, but
saying,
yes, correct, yeah.
I'm asking you legality. I'm not asking you if you know or
Yeah,
not.
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, no,
I know about my budget. That's about it.
No, I'm not asking. I'm just, I'm trying to back up.
I think the letter said whatever the letter said, the 17th was the date that. What I know that they're trying to get it to you. We had a little meeting today, a staff meeting to try. If they can, they're trying to get something to you before then. But
Assuming that's the day, can you and the clerk
yeah, we'll give you a
put
time.
together a timetable? Schedule?
So basically, to sort of voice the sentiment of Councilman Lawson, I don't think we're going to have the time like we did last year, is to bring in every department head. Is that what you were alluding to, Councilman?
Well, we can just forward all the questions to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we got questions, we invite them, but
Yeah.
I don't think we need to go department by department
No.
to just have them tell us what we're reading.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll,
But yeah, if there are questions, absolutely.
yeah, we'll do the ups and downs and move around. I just wanted to be on.
Okay, so the way we leave it is assuming this the 17th, we get the budget. We'll know in a couple of days, solicitor and the city clerk will put together the revised schedule and we'll go forward from there.
So right here, just for notice, the meeting on the 10th of September, it was a workshop. There will be no meeting, so people out there listening, there's no workshop next week because we, the city council, do not have the budget.
Yeah, I don't know if this is
This is it.
normal.
Well, I mean, it's posted, right? It's
Yeah, it's
formal, right?
posted,
It's
okay.
posted. Yeah, it's posted.
So we'll just, the city clerk will cancel it on
Repost,
the,
yeah.
Yeah.
it'll be canceled on the city Secretary of State's website. And on
All
our,
right, that's pretty
I
well.
just wanted to make sure that we're in
We have
compliance.
to
Yeah.
Thank
update
you
it-
that-
update the posting. Okay,
moving right along.
want to continue on, Madam Clerk? That's, I think, maybe an item or two.
Ordinance section 18-307, no parking, Somerset Avenue, Arrowhead Avenue, and Kingsford Avenue. Sponsored Council President Rodericks and Councilman Lawson.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. There is one item that I might have forgotten back in the mayor communications. I know we don't have to read all of these, but if you recall earlier in the meeting, I had asked the chief of staff if she wanted to comment, and she said later under mayor communications.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. That was my fault.
Oh,
You're
man,
still here. Did you want to announce these?
I am so sorry.
No
I
problem.
missed that.
I missed, I think we were trying to move through and,
I was in the bathroom.
Oh, my.
and a couple of days here that we want to publicly announce.
No, I'm so sorry. I just thought
Nope.
it was the,
Not a problem. I was been thinking about it before we adjourn, and I'm glad that
absolutely.
you stayed here. So please go ahead and make these necessary announcements.
So thank you. In terms of dates, so we are having our annual 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony on September 11th at 10 a.m. Here at City Hall Plaza. I just wanted to remind everyone, Keith Brines was also going to speak about land use bills, but he is now gone. We had Director Moore, who's always waits to go over finance reports, but we'll skip that. They've been accepted. And then we also had a proclamation for Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, childhood cancer. And one of the ones that is near and dear to my heart is the Alzheimer's Awareness Month, because I have several relatives who have passed on, including my dad with that. But the two that were skipped over this evening and that are important, I think, to our community, because we have a lot of residents who are of these background. We have Hispanic Heritage Month and Brazilian Independence Day. So if the council would allow me to read those into the record.
Please.
Absolutely. And I apologize.
So
That was all of us, really. We kind of forgot.
I just thought you guys were cutting me off. So September 8th, whereas on September 15th, 1821, the Act of Independence of Central America was signed, officially marking the severance of 5 neighboring Latin American countries from Spanish Empire. And whereas in the following days, months, and years, other Spanish colonies followed the pursuit of freedom and declared their own independence from the Spanish Empire. And since then, Hispanic people have been a part of and have contributed much to American history, being an integral in our local communities, bringing business, culture, tradition, and family values. And whereas Hispanic Heritage Month began as a National Hispanic Heritage Week, which was first introduced in 1968 in California. Whereas in 1987, Rep. Esteban Flores proposed expanding the week long commemoration to its current 31 days. The past bill was signed in 1988 by President Ronald Reagan. And whereas President George H.W. Bush was the first president to declare September 15th through October 15th as National Hispanic Heritage Month, concluding after Columbus Day, known as the Day of the Race to Hispanic Nations. Whereas the city of East Providence is home to a growing population of Hispanic people, and as a community, we embrace the diversity of our many, many cultures. Therefore, I, but not myself, but on behalf of Mayor Roberto L. Da Silva, on behalf of the city of East Providence, do I hereby proclaim, not complain, September 15, 24 through October 15, 2024 as Hispanic Heritage Month in the city of East Providence. And we urge the entire community to join us in celebrating the appropriate events. And speaking of our diverse community, I'd be remiss if we didn't get a chance to read into record our Brazilian Independence Day, whereas September 7th marks 202 years of independence in Brazil. And whereas in 1815, King Dom João V bestowed the authority to rule in case of death or calamity on his own son and heir, the Prince Regent Dom Pedro. And in 1820, Portugal's constitutional rebellion and political revolution led by those who wanted a constitutional detailing the people's rights was brewing in Portugal, causing King Dom João to leave Brazil and return home, leaving Prince Dom Pedro to rule. And whereas in 1822, under Prince Dom Pedro's ministry, the new nation of Brazil formally issued a declaration of independence from the United Kingdom of Portugal, Brazil, and the Algarves. And whereas in 1824, Brazil adopted the first constitution and the country is recognized by the United States. And whereas Independence Day celebrations are held on a vast level across Brazil, including military parades and patriotic performances during the day and fireworks in the evening and at night. Whereas picnics and other outdoor activities are a tradition with thousands of Brazilians gathering on the streets to celebrate together. And whereas the city of East Providence is home to a number of residents with Brazilian heritage that have added to the fabric of our community by sharing their rich culture with the rest of the city. Therefore, I, Mayor Roberto L. Da Silva, on behalf of the mayor, on behalf of the city of East Providence, hereby proclaim Saturday, September 7th as Brazilian Independence Day in the city of East Providence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to add, I want to invite those watching the meeting to try to attend these various celebrations. If you haven't noticed, the face of East Providence, as well as this nation, is not like it was in 1965 anymore. And we have a rich culture here. And if you have been to any of these ceremonies, the city does a nice job in promoting the various ethnicities and cultures. And what you notice the most is in the faces of the people who are here, whether it's Irish Day, Brazilian Day, Cape Verdean Day, Hispanic Day, the various cultural days that have been highlighted. To quote my colleague, Councilman Rigo here, politics aside, these have been great celebrations. And if you can make it, come. If you can't, at least know what your city is doing as we've reached out. And I commend the mayor's office. They invite us. Many of us are working and can't always get here during the daytime activities. But there's a two-way street. We're invited and the community is invited. So hopefully, especially that 9/11 ceremony, which is such a moving day for the community. So I'll get off my soapbox with that. Thank you, Ms. Mazzendi. Sorry to make you wait that long. We
I
overlooked
actually
that.
served under Reagan and Bush.
Yes, we have a couple of veterans here who I know we call those events closely. Was there anything else, or we had adjournment? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilman Rigo to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.